Boom, we get the job done. Long story short, we go down and shoot the Union guy 9 times on the streets of New York.
Where do you think that ability to commit violence comes from?
I found out who my informant was. We were going to kill him.
Tell us what it's like to actually get made.
If I'm a guy that's known for shooting people and I come to you and say, listen, if you don't have my money tomorrow, I'm going to shoot you. You don't think you're going to be worried?
What was it like to be in prison being a high-ranking mobster?
I wish the violence didn't happen. But do I lose sleep over it? No.
How does it make you feel that you were willing to kill people that did the same exact thing that you ended up doing in the end? Anthony Arillotta wasn't just connected to the Mafia, he ran part of it. As a boss in the Genovese crime family, he ordered hits, made millions, and lived by the code until he didn't. In this exclusive interview, he reveals what life was really like inside one of America's most powerful crime families and why he finally walked away. Anthony, welcome to Locked In. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Ian, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you first came on my radar a couple of years ago when I was doing Johnny Mitchell's clips back in the day, running his TikTok and stuff, and I saw your story. Very crazy stories, but I think you were the first former Mafia guy I came across.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think because I think he had you, and then he had a couple of the other ones, but you were, I think, the first one he had on.
So you were, because you were working with Johnny.
Yep, I used to run his TikTok for him. I had met him. What I did was I cold DM'd him one day when he did a Flagrance show. We picked him up in New York and then brought him to our old studio in Poughkeepsie. And it was like a 2.5-hour drive, and we were just talking. And then he's like, "Oh, you run social medias?" And at the time I did, and I was like, "Yeah." And I started working for him.
Oh, nice.
And now Matty Ice works for him.
Yeah. So he's out in California now, though, right?
I think he moved to Texas.
Did he?
Yeah, he was in California. He's in Texas now.
Okay, because when I did the show with him, I was in L.A.
Yep, that's where I think he splits his time back and forth, but he spends most of his time in Texas.
Okay, nice.
But yeah, that's where I first came across your story.
Okay.
Then there was the bigger guy. I think his name's Anthony too.
Anthony.
Is it?
Ruggiano?
Yeah.
Okay, yup.
That's who he had too.
Yeah, he's had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Dominic Sicali, Gene Borello, I think Johnny A. He had a lot of mobsters on.
Yeah, he had a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I messaged Gene at one point to have him on the show, I think like a year and a half ago, and, and then he right away doesn't even says hi or hello. He just says it's $500 for Zoom, and it was an extra amount for in person, and then that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, I want to talk about your book in the beginning of this episode, and you also brought us a bottle of wine.
Yep.
So tell the audience about both of these things.
So the book South End Syndicate was written in 2000. It came out last September, and like you said, there was I had a crazy story, but and you are from Connecticut, so I'm from Springfield, Mass. Very close. I border Hartford. It's 20 minutes from Hartford, Connecticut. So the organized crime stories had a significant role throughout history. And you never really hear anything from Western Mass, Central Mass, which is Worcester, and going into Connecticut. And you had some notorious gangsters to come out of those Massachusetts and Connecticut. And you never heard anything about it. And legendary bosses in organized crime, not glorifying the life, but in the organized crime, there were legendary bosses, Big Nose Sam, Billy Grasso, Whitey Tropiano. And so I believe I put us nationally on the map with my part of history in this, whatever you want to call it, saga, organized crime. But I don't think it should have been like that. I think that it should have been discussed and talked about more prior to me. I was just a part of it. So I wanted to write the book to tell the world or the nation, the history of organized crime in Connecticut and Massachusetts. So that was the big part of, telling the story. And then my part of that story was a huge part. There was a lot of violence. There was lots of, money, millions of dollars, a very lucrative crew we had. And so I had a big part of that story. So that was the main reason of writing the book.
Yeah, it's interesting. Growing up, we never hear about the mob stories in Connecticut.
There you go.
It's always pretty much just New York.
Why, though? Because New York's bigger cities, you got names like Gotti, and the 5 families are out of New York. And so, then you got bigger cities outside there, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston even. You'll see books and things written on them, but never Connecticut Western Central Mass. You never hear anything. And I could give you dozens and dozens of names of, and I've been around these criminals my whole life, in prison, outside of prison. I've been with bosses in other families, the Bonanos, the Gambinos, the Genoveses, and I've been around our own crew of bosses, and it's one and the same. There is no different when you see them, when it comes to being a violent killer, being able to make millions of dollars in the rackets in that life. It's one and the same. So, yeah, you don't really hear stories, and now you're going to start hearing some.
And the wine business, tell everyone about that.
So the wine business, it's called Pazzo wine. Pazzo means crazy in Italian. And I grew up in a family. My father was in the fruit and produce business. He was the largest wine grape distributor in all of Massachusetts, Connecticut also. They used to come and buy the grapes, to make their own wines. All the Italian immigrants, a lot of Portuguese immigrants, they all came to my father's store. So I was around it growing up. I was, drinking homemade wine at 4 years old. My grandfather made it, my uncles, my father. So I grew up with that. My father was selling the wine. And so, I didn't partake in that business of his. It was a lot of work and everything. I went on my own in the streets and legitimate businesses elsewhere. But when I came home the last time from prison in 2017, I linked up with a federal marshal that worked on my case, the last case, the death penalty case out of New York. And so he reached out, and he was part of this group that has wedding venues and resorts and golf courses on them, and wineries, and we talked about getting into some real estate deals, and we both thought it was a great idea to get involved in the wine business. So that's what we did. And our winery is in Maryland. That's where we grow the grapes, Bohemia Manor. But our partners own 3 more in Maryland, 2 more in New Jersey, and we're looking to buy another one actively right now in Connecticut. We're trying to look for a nice spot, because it's something very closer for me, myself.
Tell us about your childhood growing up in Springfield.
My childhood was, I had a great life. I had a great childhood, great parents, great big Italian family. Springfield was loaded with Italian immigrants, a very highly populated Italian immigrant city. And I grew up with a lot of, like I said, my father was in the produce business. I used to work there. He used to drag me there in the morning, waking me up at, when I wasn't in school, he'd drag me to go to work over there. And hard work. He was a great man. My father wasn't involved in any organized crime activity. Very legitimate, great man, but very hard worker. I mean, that business was just brutal work. Waking up at 4, picking up 40, 50-pound boxes of orange. I mean, he used to sell 7 trailer loads of produce a week, 7 trailer loads. So can you imagine, there's like 28 pallets on a trailer. And, on a Saturday, we'd go through 30 pallets of produce on just, on one day. So you just picture, you got to pick up the produce, put it on the shelves, and do a lot of work. So that wasn't for me. And, but I worked there up until my, mid-teens, or, later in the teenager years. And I had a great childhood. No history of fun. It was just a fun, grandparents on both sides, aunts, uncles on both sides, everybody. And the reason my father's store, everybody worked there. So I had grandmothers on both sides, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, cousins. It was like 20 of us working at my father's store. And it was a big family, get to a lot of Italian, immigrants, Russian, Spanish. It was a poor people place. He had a place where he would give the produce, 5 times cheaper if you went into a supermarket. So if you went to a supermarket and spent $500, you could get the same amount of stuff for $100 at my father's store. And that's why everybody went there, and he had deals and things like that for the poor people, and even the people with money went there because they all want deals too, So I had a great childhood. I used to play sports. I was involved in all the sports. Always in trouble, fighting, and but not just getting stupid fights. In school, we're fighting each other. Or we were Italians. We're fighting the Irish or the Spanish or this, whatever, just over no stupid reason. And always in trouble, always busting balls and having fun in life.
What about your mom?
My mom, yeah, she's still alive. She was with my father. They were together the whole time. My father passed while I was in prison in '07. But yeah, she was um, you know, uh always there, always, I could never do any wrong, even when I did wrong. She was like, that, that's probably not a good thing, because but yeah, I was never wrong at anything. And she would go to war with me if there was you know teacher called up at school and I'm going to get suspended because we did this, when she would have, she would defend me, over that case, so
What do you think was the most important lesson your parents taught you as a kid?
My father is he used to always say didn't want me to be involved in street crime, organized crime, because it was a Mafia had a big presence in Springfield, so didn't want me involved in that. Told me there's no such things as kings on earth, in that life you're going to end up dead or go to prison, so he always preached me to work, at something. And being around that business helped me out in a way where his business is at a young age. I was like 5, 6 years old, and he used to have, and this is back in the '70s, and he used to do like 70, 80,000 in business, all cash. And even the food stamps back then were money. They were paper money, like ones and fives and tens and 20s. They were all like, instead of cards, they were money. But, so you had to straighten out the money. So on a Saturday, he'd probably do 25,000 on a Saturday. And now the money's got to be straightened out, the ones, the fives, put them in the right order, put them in $2,000 bundles and get them ready for the bank. And so being around that kind of money at a young age, helping him count it, helping him straighten it out, got my mindset around money at a young age, seeing that type of money. So I was accustomed to being around money like that, which helped me out in the future. I never thought small. I always thought large. I didn't, if something, I was never a 9 to 5 guy. I looked at things, even like when it came to the rackets on the street, I was looking for the home runs. I wasn't looking, you start off grinding and everything, but if it couldn't potentially lead to something that's going to, net me millions of dollars, then I want to waste my time with it.
Did you guys grow up with money because of his business, or did
Yeah.
you still struggle?
So we were like high middle class, I would say, but the problem was my father was such a hard worker. He was never home. So I used to play sports. He, he wanted to come to my games. A lot of times he did, but he couldn't, because he was his store was a madhouse. I mean, it was crazy. We had 6 cashiers working there, and the line was still 20, 30 people deep. I mean, it was just insane. So, what'd you just ask me? Well,
About if you guys grew up with money.
yeah, so we were middle class. I had a roof over my house, my own bedroom. I didn't have to worry about food, no bills. I never had to pay a bill. My mother did my clothes. So there was no, if I wanted to go out somewhere, my mother would give me $100 to go out, back then in the '70s, '80s. She would give me money to go out and eat dinner, or we'd go to the movies, me and my friends, or just be hanging around. And so, yeah, I had it like that. I didn't grow up, but that doesn't do anything for me. In fact, I think growing up poor helps that person in the long run, because I wasn't hungry at a young age. I wasn't, I didn't need to go out and work. My father had a business. I go to my father, but I would go to him and work, and I didn't get paid either. Like, like it's family. You go there and work for nothing. And then when I started getting older and I needed, to pay some bills, you're still working. Like I was working 80 hours a week, making $400 a week. You know what I'm saying? So when so no, we didn't grow up poor. We grew up, middle class. I never wanted for anything if I needed it, but that wasn't for me. I didn't, just because I grew up like that doesn't mean that's mine. I want to go out and make my own. And eventually that's what I did. Like working at the store, I was working the wine grape season. Wine grapes is every like September, October. That's when the trucks come in. My father would sell like 40 trailer loads of wine grapes every year. And it's a pain in the ass. You got to pick up the boxes. You got to cut the wires off them, and they cut your hands. And then you got yellow jacket bees stinging you because of the sugar of the grapes. And you got to load up 40-pound boxes, 7 high, 280 pounds on a two-wheeler. And some guy bought 600 boxes, and you got to load all that in his truck. So backbreaking work, and that's how I got into the streets, based on that. I know I jumped ahead a little bit because you asked if we grew up on money, but I ended up leaving the store and went and sold 10 pounds of marijuana, and I made $400 a pound. I was back within an hour, and I made $4,000. And so I'm working 80 hours a week, making $400, back-breaking work, just brutal work. And in 1 hour I made $4,000. So, after that it was like, the fruit store is not for me.
When I got out of prison, everyone kept telling me, just get therapy, it will help. Like it was as easy as ordering a pizza. Meanwhile, every therapist I found either didn't take my insurance, wasn't accepting new patients, or wanted me to wait months just to talk to someone for 45 minutes. And when you're dealing with stress, anxiety, rebuilding your life, and trying not to fall back into old habits, waiting months is not an option. That's why I'm a huge fan of Rula, because Rula actually fixes the biggest problems people run into when trying to get help, finding someone who takes your insurance. Go to Rula.com/locked-in to get started today. That's RULA.com/locked-in for quality therapy that's covered by insurance. Rula partners with over 100 insurance plans, which means most people end up paying about $15 a session. Real therapy, licensed professionals at a price that actually makes sense. If I had something like Rula when I first got out, I probably wouldn't have had to try to tough it out for so long. But the best part is how personal the experience is. A lot of online platforms just match you with whoever's available, but Rula looks at your goals, your background, what you want to work on, and gives you a curated list of in-network therapists who are a fit for you. Because the right therapist changes everything, and there's no wait lists, no endless back and forth, and you can often get an appointment as soon as tomorrow. Rula even checks in with you along the way to make sure you're actually getting the help you came for. I wish the system in prison was even 1% as organized as Rula is with mental health care. If you ever felt like therapy was too expensive, too confusing, or just too hard to access, Rula finally makes it simple. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance. Visit Rula.com/locked-in to get started. After you sign up, you'll be asked how you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. That's RULA.com/locked-in. You deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget. Before you ever turned to the streets, what were your aspirations? What were you thinking of for your future?
I never really had any aspirations, young. I just thought that, everyone would be like, you're going to take over your father's business. Cause it was he had a gold mine there. He was one of the largest small businesses in the, Western Mass area, back, like I said, in the 70s and 80s, doing 70 to 80,000 a week in cash, so that was back then. And so, I was just working there. I was into sports, but, I never really thought I would make a pro, So as far as aspirations, the Mafia had a huge presence in our area, huge. And so they used to always come into the store, and I always kind of, wanted to know who these people are. And that kind of interested me, These guys come in dressed nice. Some of them dress nice. Some of them, like Anthony DeLavo, dressed like a lumberjack, jeans and everything, but still vicious. And they would get treated with respect. The boss, Big No Sam Kafari, would come in, and my father would all cater to them, show them all this respect. I didn't, I don't know if it was aspiration, but it was something that I liked. Like, who are these people? You know, and then especially you ask your, grandparents and say, "Oh, they're my father, they're not nice people," or whatever, things like that. You know, but everyone was nice to them. Everyone treated them with respect. So, it intrigues you, like, who are these people? And then you start hearing on the streets the mafia more. I'm in 15 years. You're hearing about it since you're a little kid. And but as far as aspirations, I didn't really have any um known that I've known of. Just I didn't really have any. Just go out and make money.
In those moments you were just describing, did you ever picture yourself becoming one of them?
Yeah. So when I started learning more about the mafia, I knew that there were a bunch of killers. That's what I was told. And you had to kill to be part of that mafia family, that organized crime family. So at a young age, I always wondered, could I kill someone? And and I used to think about that at a young age, like 13, 14. I used to always think, could I do that? And I always said at a young age, I could, but I would always say it where I would want to be like a good mafia guy, like, kill the evil ones, kill somebody like that. Obviously, it doesn't work like that in that life. If, you kill your best friends, and you might have to kill, someone you grew up with your whole life. But for the most part, you're killing evil people. If you'd say that someone else killed someone else, I want to call them an angel, right? So you pretty much end up killing evil people. So yeah, and then you start getting older now. Now you start hitting your mid-teens. You're getting in gang fights on the streets. Your serious weapons are being used now, knives and guns and bats and clubs, and your reputation is not, you don't know it, but you're getting a reputation for violence. We had a big gang of us in Springfield. There was a lot of gangs throughout Springfield, but our gang hung around on the south end of Springfield. And like I said, heavily populated with Italians, immigrants, Italians all over the place. And we were always in trouble fighting. And so the reputation is going. And now you could start seeing, listen, if you're Italian growing up back then, you're not going to try to be part of, the Crips, the Bloods, the Latin Kings. That didn't exist back then. There's only one thing and one thing only, and that's the Italian Mafia. So that's what you would, that's the goal right there, is to be around that.
What was the first violent act you ever committed as a kid, and how do you think it shaped the rest of your life from that moment?
So like I said, I was in school fights my whole life. Since kindergarten, I was getting into fights. Those are just little stupid fights. The first major fight was, there was a big, kind of a gang fight, and I was 15 years old, and hit the kid over the head with a stick, a broom type of stick. The problem was there was a nail at the end of the stick, and it went into the kid's head, and the kid went down, blood started squirting up, and everybody kind of the fight ended. And cops grabbed us shortly afterwards. I got arrested. And so I was 15 years old for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. And I was a juvenile. So I was a juvenile in juvenile court, And so that was pretty much I would say the first violence. It didn't change me as far as how it changed me was it got me it got me adapted to the court system. First time I had cuffs put on me, you're in a police car. Some kids this is going to scare them and they're never going to get in trouble again, or some kids are going to be like, it didn't bother them. And you go down to the police station. I remember the detective said, you should get your legs broken, you little punk, and he put me in the car and brought me down to the station. And don't forget, I'm a juvenile. So they couldn't put me in a regular, like a police, thing. And anyways, I get out, bailed out. I go to court. I get found guilty, and I'm a juvenile delinquent. But we got to the kids, one of the kids, whatever, families of this and that. And We appealed it, and on appeal, the kid never came forward, and I ended up getting that case turned. So I would say the impact on that is knowing that I could commit violence, number one, and that I could get away with it. Because we had a lot of political power connections that we could go to get us out of it, with things like that, and which happened throughout my whole life.
Where do you think that ability to commit violence comes from?
With me, I just think it just grows. It wasn't, I had, like I said, I had a good life. I had, I wasn't beaten by nobody, parents, nothing like that. I had a fun life. It was fun, and I loved teasing and busting balls every day of my life, and it was a good life. But I just think, I don't know, maybe just the bloodstream of my mother and father, the combination of it. We have we don't like to, when someone wrongs you, you have a temper, and so when it comes to that, it's kind of like you react, and the violence comes, and it's just like some people, when they somebody does them wrong, they can walk away from it, and some people, they don't like that, and then it just escalates, and it leads into a fight, and yeah, but I don't know where it would come. I just think it's in there, and I don't know where it came from. It was just part of it, and not for a bad reason. It's for always justified, if you want to say that. It's somebody wants to fight you, you fight them. It's not like you're just going up to somebody on, like these things today on the subway and hitting somebody for no reason, or pushing someone in a subway for the train to run them over, or, stabbing somebody for no reason. There was always reasons, our gang against their gang. He wants to fight me, I fight him, things like that.
Did you end up graduating high school?
Yeah. 12th grade. I don't know how I graduated. I never took a book home. 11th grade, I never forget this. We had two vice principals, like one for the A to M and then one for the M to Z. And my name started with A. My friend Anthony Shabelli started with S. So he had one, I had one. And we were in fights every single day at high school. I mean, we had the cops with horses there because there was gang fights after the high school, and it was always us with this group, us with that group, us with this group. And so that year of 11th grade, I remember we got suspended. I think, and I don't know how many school days there are in a year. What is there, like less than 200? I mean, I don't know. There's 365 days a year. How many of them are actually school days?
Yeah.
We missed like more than half of them, like 100 days between suspension and absentees, us skipping school. And they passed us from 11th to 12th grade. And I don't know how. I never took a book home from my whole life. I never took a book. I'm educated. I can read very well. I can spell very well. I'm great at math, but I never took a book home. And we passed from 11th to 12th, and then 12th grade we ended up graduating, and I don't know how.
Maybe your parents' connections again.
No, I don't think so. I know we cheated. I cheated on, I had people doing my test for me, things like that. But I remember one report card I got all Fs and I think one D, F, and one D. I mean, so I don't know how I passed.
They just wanted you out of there.
Probably, yeah. I ran into the high school principals like after we graduated, like a few years. I seen him at the gym at the where we work out. So I said, "Hey, Mr. Walsh, how you doing?" And he's trying to, because he had thousands of kids. How's he, And he goes, trying to place me. And I go, "Who were the two greatest students you've ever had at the high school?" The way I said it, I was being sarcastic. And he goes, "Where's Shabelli?" He knew right away. We had them poor guys, like I said, there was a fight just about every day after school. One time he grabbed me, goes, "You get in the office." And then this girl comes in and she goes, "Mr. Walsh, I need this you to sign." He goes, "Please, girl, I think he's cursing everything. "Get the fuck out of here. I got a goddamn war on my hand." And so it was getting in trouble like that.
Where'd you go after high school? Do you go to college?
No.
Or?
Jail. Prison.
Right away.
Yeah, I graduated 18. I was in prison like 20.
What happened?
So I was always in trouble. picking up assault and battery cases. And like I said, we get them dismissed. Lots of them would get dismissed. We had the local, the state U.S. attorney, state prosecutor in our pocket. The Mafia ended up killing my friend's father because of this prosecutor. So they had control of him from the 70s to the 90s. So anytime we got in trouble and you were in the right side of organized crime group, because we had factions within within our groups, So if you were in the with the right faction, this prosecutor, you would get the charges dismissed. And that's what happened to me. I would get in trouble, assault and battery, case dismissed, now pros, blah, blah, blah. But on one case, I got probation. And so I'm serving like 3-year probation for an assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. They couldn't just keep dismissing. And so they give me a 3-year probation. And then I get a shooting case where I get caught with a gun, a shooting case out of it. No victims though. But I got pulled over with a 9mm in my car, and my car at the time wasn't I had a Cadillac. It wasn't insured or registered. So they hit me with the gun, a shooting, but no victim. And I was on probation. So I received a 5-year sentence for that, in a state prison sentence. So I was never, ever in prison ever. And my first time ever, I go to a state prison in Massachusetts.
How do your parents react to this? Because this is not the life they wanted for you.
No, they were hurt. My father was hurt. He didn't want to see me go to prison. But like I said, he's got to get up at 4 a.m. The poor guy, he's working hard, and I'm going to be going to prison with no worries and nothing. And he's got to get up every day, 4 o'clock, work till 6, work his ass off, come home tired, So he's got his own problems with that, but work. And they weren't happy that I was going to prison. I had a lot of support. I had, huge family, lots of friends, all huge thing of support. I would have visits every week, tons of letters coming in, and big parties when I would come home. So yeah, it was my parents, because I did so well inside there, that made it easier on them.
How do you think that first prison sentence shaped you?
The best. It was the greatest. So I had to do a mandatory year because of the gun, and it was the best year for me. And meaning that it got me, like you said earlier, my parents weren't poor. I wasn't poor growing up, which was bad for me because, I didn't have to do anything. I needed money. My mother gave me money. She'd do my clothes. There was food on the table. I didn't have no worries, no pressures, no nothing, right? And so now I go to prison, and it's a serious state prison where my first cellie was a guy doing natural life without parole, can never get out. So I go from, I'm a 20-year-old kid, and, I look 15 years old. I looked younger than what I was, and I wasn't a big guy, but I was capable of the most violence that you could think of. So when I went in there, the Italians ran back and this was 1990. The Italians in Massachusetts. We had a big, heavily population of Irish and Italians, and they pretty much ran the prison because they had a lot of the guards. A lot of them were, Irish and Italian, and they were bringing in anything that we wanted. So my first year there is like, as soon as I got in, we were eating Italian food right on first of all, the inmate comes up to me, this Bobby Giadoni out of East Boston. He says, "You Anthony?" He said, "Yeah." And I was with all the old gangsters back then, Ronnie Cassesso, Joe the Horse, bunch of, like I said, Irish gangsters, Italian gangsters, and they were running everything. I go, "You Anthony?" "Yeah." "You're coming to East, no, this is when I moved to East Up in Concord." He goes, "You Anthony?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Grab your stuff, pack it up, come down here with us." He's an inmate. He's telling me to pack up my stuff. I go downstairs. The whole tier was all Irish and Italians, and there was no racial conflicts there. Blacks, I had black friends, Spanish friends. I was on the Spanish softball team. There was none of that racial division where you would see in other states. You know, there was just we had a and I think because we had such a high population of Irish and Italians in the state prison system. And like I said, if you wanted I don't do drugs, but if you wanted them, they were there. Girls, you could have women at that time. We had an Irish club, an Italian club. Every month, you could have your outside people come in and eat inside the prison with you. And they bring in the outside food. And so the Irish could do it once a month. They would invite all the Italians. Italians do it once a month, invite all the Irish. So we had 60 guys, with our families. There was like a huge party twice a month there. And so anyways, in the meantime, I have to have my own discipline now in prison. I have to, fend for myself. No more, I have to get my own clothes, make sure my clothes are washed. I have to buy my own food through commissary. I have to, make sure I keep a solid reputation in there, and which I did. And so, and then with that, I met a lot of connections. That's why I say it was the best. I made a lot of, I got educated with the streets, and I made a lot of connections with Boston guys, all throughout Worcester, Boston, Charlestown, and those areas. And the main thing that I've learned during that year was the marijuana business. I learned the laws of it, connections for that. And Massachusetts, if you got caught with 50 pounds or under, it was a misdemeanor. So you're in district court. You're not going to go to prison. You're probably going to get probation for your, a bust under 50 pounds. And, because they were after at that time all the cocaine, the crack was getting big now. 1990 was getting big, all that type of stuff. So I got marijuana connections and educated on selling marijuana. And so that was huge for me. That part right there was why I say it was the best year. The connections, the education of how to make money, and the connections I made through the organized crime circles was huge. And like I said, I got out in 91 and I hit the streets running.
Now, while you were in prison and before 1991, you weren't directly involved with organized crime. You were just in their circles?
No. So in our area, in Springfield area, you couldn't help. If you're Italian and you're in trouble like me, you're going to be – and we hung around on the South End. That was where their headquarters was. All the gangsters hung around down there. So you're in their circles no matter what. But as far as me making my own money, yes, prior to going to prison, I messed around with some coke, small level, cocaine. Half kilo, break it into the ounces and sell, ounces, a quarter ounce, things like that. This is prior to me going to state prison. And, we were involved. I was a huge gambler my whole life, huge. So I was always involved in the sports business, the casino type games. I was going to casinos since I've been 15 years old, Atlantic City, with fake IDs. And so yeah, I was around in those type of circles prior to me going to prison in 1990, but not officially on record with the Mafia. But they, you might as well just say it wasn't official, but yeah, we were around them.
After doing time, you learn real fast what a scam looks like. In prison, scams are everywhere, from guys selling exclusive ramen recipes to people betting on fantasy football without any actual football. But the craziest scams I see today, they're happening online. Fake deals, fake pages, people trying to get your info. And even when I got home, I had friends sending money to people they didn't even know because the deal was too good to be true. That's why I like using Cash App, because I actually feel like my money isn't out there floating around unprotected. And here's the thing, if you're about to send money to someone for a deal that's too good to be true and Cash App flags it as a potential scam, they'll warn you before you send the money. That's huge, because I've lived a life where one bad decision costs you everything. Having an app that actually steps in and taps you on the shoulder like, bro, you sure about this? That's the kind of protection I wish I had in a lot of moments in my life. Scammers know the holidays are busy for everyone, which can make us all targets for scams. That's why Cash App builds in protection to help keep your money safe while you're checking off your shopping list. If you're about to send money to someone for a deal that sounds too good to be true and Cash App flags it as a potential scam, they'll warn you before you send the money. Cash App also gives you an extra layer of protection with features like security lock. You can require a PIN, Face ID, or fingerprint to unlock your account and move money. So even if someone gets a hold of your unlocked phone at a holiday party, your money is right where you left it. So gift yourself some peace of mind this holiday season and download Cash App. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code SECURE10 in your profile, send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Even at that age, could you have been involved with them directly, like
Of,
officially?
of course, yeah.
Like it
So
doesn't discriminate against age?
no, like so officially I got involved with them. I was only 22 years old, 21, 22. It was right when I got out of prison in 1991. Al Bruno came to my house and put me on record with the Springfield faction of the Genovese Crime Family. So yeah, age doesn't mean anything. Like if he approached me earlier, say in the 80s, which, I was around him in the 80s. It was just never official. But once they know that you to be around officially, once they know that you're capable of making money or are making money, that's when they want you around them officially, so they can grab a piece. They want to be around you. So, okay, if you're going to start Loansharking, or if you're going to start, in the sports business, I'm going to put you on record with us, and you're going to be with us because I want to make money with you. And they got, young kids. That's where the money is. The young kids coming up got all, connections to go out and make more money and keep the money coming in. And that's just one. And he's got dozens of them.
So do you think this is a misconception with how TV and movies have portrayed the mafia?
As far as what?
The kids or the youngness to it? I mean, we don't see in really TV or movies what you're describing.
Well, yeah, depending on what you're saying is how young in movies. But like if you go back to the, when the 50s and 60s, I mean, you would see just like the gangs today, they're 13 years old. Yeah, you would see them coming out at 12, 13, 14 years old. It's just today it's more, when we were growing up, it's more modernized, and you would wait until, like I said, the mafia sits back and watches, and they see who's capable, which guy's capable of a violent act, which guy's capable of making money. This kid is, he's in college, and he's doing a sports book, and he's got 100 guys betting with him. It's big money. So, but he's not capable of violence. But so what? You bring him in, you bring him around as an associate. He's an associate. And now he's with you. He's in your crew. He's making money with you. The most dangerous is when they can do them both. Because they watch this kid, and that's pretty much what I was, and most of my crew that I brought around. I made millionaires out of my crew. All of them, became millionaires. And the one thing about us was we all could make money, and we are all dangerous at the same time. That's what makes you dangerous, the most dangerous on the streets, is when you can do both. When you're able to, because money is the power. I don't care what anyone says. Money, you might not be able to do the violence, but with the money, you become powerful, and you can get the violence done because of the money.
What does put on notice mean?
Put on
or
notice?
put on record, you were describing.
Yeah. Put on record is, so now Al Bruno put me on record with the Springfield faction of the Genovese Crime Family. He was a soldier. He has to go to his boss, get the okay. And he goes to his boss and says he wants me to go on record with them. The boss gives them the okay. And what it means is now I'm on record, and especially back in the day, it meant a lot, because now you're just like, you're not a made guy, but you got the protection and the power of the mafia. Now you're like one of them, even though you're not made. You're a 10-minute ceremony from away once you get proposed. So and now you have to follow the rules. So when you're on record now, they tell you the rules of what you got to go by, what they got to go by. They don't want you selling drugs, and you put on record everything that you do. So that business. So if I want to open up a legitimate restaurant, I still want to put it on record with the family, because in case somebody goes in there to try to shake down that restaurant, it's known now that that restaurant is protected by the family.
So you're put on record. What's your mindset at that time? Do you have a big ego, a big head? Are you walking like, what do you look like? What are you wearing?
Yeah, so your mind, it's a very intoxicating, powerful feeling when they tell, like Bruno used to always say, "You're with us now. The fucking Pope can't touch you. You go anywhere, anywhere." And it was like, but that's how it was back then. I mean, the Mafia had so much power. It ain't nothing like that today, but back then, you're a young kid. If you knew what the Mafia was, you said you were born in '95. Like, if you knew it, so you have no clue what, like, the Mafia was and the power that they had in the history up until, I would say, I mean, they still exist in New York. Boston's got a faction, Philly's got a small faction, but they're not as powerful as they once were, not even a fraction. And so, when they say you were part of that back then, everybody wanted to be a part of it. Like I said, if you were Italian, if you were, even the blacks and the Spanish wanted to be around the Italian gangsters back then, and be a part of that, the gangs started blowing up around that time in the 90s and everything, but, on the East Coast and things like that. But it was the presence of the Mafia was just huge. And so when you're part of that, yeah, it's like your ego, you feel like, you can't be touched. You go to play. Now, if you're a real deal, you still got to be the real deal. Like, there's a lot of phonies and fakes that, they get that and they go around and feeling that, but sooner or later they get exposed as to who they are.
Did you see yourself becoming a leader when you first came on board?
Yeah, I was always like a leader in life. Like when we played football, I was the quarterback. When we did our rackets amongst us kids, before the Mafia, I was always the one putting things together. Like in the marijuana business, I put it together. I was in charge. I gave the splits to who they had to go to. Same thing with the Loansharking, same thing with the sports gambling. I put everything together. So I didn't think of myself as better and being like I was just boss material mentally, my own boss. That's just how I am. I hate taking orders. I hate authority, someone telling me what to do. So that's just in me. So with that being in me, I'm never gonna be a one to take orders or not be a boss. Now in the Mafia, of course you have to start off like that, but even though I'm telling you the Mafia was so dangerous, I still did my own thing, and I'm lucky. I should have gotten killed, but I just don't like I never like taking orders.
So if they found out you were doing your own thing, you would have been killed?
Yeah, like you're not supposed to sell drugs. I sold millions. I made millions and millions of dollars in the marijuana business without them knowing, without giving them a piece. So I went on record, like I said, in 1991. I sold more marijuana. I was one of the largest marijuana distributors in all of Connecticut, Mass, these areas. And this was the whole time I was on record with the Genovese family. So I finally got arrested in 1996. They raided my house. They caught me with 40 pounds of marijuana and some ammunition. It was a misdemeanor charge. They couldn't indict me to Superior Court because it was under 50 pounds. And so, fast forward 1998, I end up beating the case. So, so that's just one example. Then, you're supposed to put down who you give the money to, the loan shark money on the streets. You put out 10,000, you charge a guy 3 points, gives you $300 a week, things like that. We had 400,000 on the street without telling the Mafia nothing. It was our money, my money, but my partners as well. So that's another thing that, they would, not kill you, but definitely beating material. The pot definitely could have got killed. In fact, Bruno wanted to kill me. Don't forget, I was on record with the Mafia when I got caught with the marijuana. And Bruno threatened to kill me, told my friend he was going to kill me. He was going to leave me dead in front of my steps and all this because he could have been implicated because I'm on record with him. So they're probably thinking, his bosses are probably thinking that he was making money with me. you know, and if they knew what kind of money that I was making, um, you know, they would have definitely wanted to kill me.
How did it go under the radar if you were such a big seller?
Yeah, so I would deny it. I don't think I went well. So back then, marijuana was considered like nobody thought you could make money. Nobody knew the marijuana business in 1990s, early 90s. Everybody was in the coke business. And then there was some that were in the heroin business, and then there was the crack business. But nobody thought there was money in the marijuana business. So when they hear about marijuana, it's like, oh, it's like marijuana. And then they're thinking like, well, he's in a marijuana business. What could he be selling? They didn't know I was selling hundreds of pounds a week. You know what I mean? They didn't know I had it covered from, I was selling it up near Albany all the way up into Connecticut. I was actually selling to my connections back in Boston that I started buying from them. I was now selling to them. I was selling to New York. I would buy from New York. I mean, I had it up and down from the lowest end to the highest end. New York, I would sell all my high end to. My area, I would sell, the low ends, the commercial bottom end, bottom grade. So they didn't know what I was involved. And then when they did find out, like I did get questioned about it. You know, I had one boss tell me, they used to call me Bingy. They used to say, if I find out you're fucking around and with this drug business, I'm going to chop you in half. I mean, I've gotten threatened like that before. And I would just say, go get the person and bring him in front of me. Who's telling you this? Who's saying that I'm in the drug business? Go get him and bring him in front of me. And nobody would come forward and confront me. But they knew, they just couldn't prove it. And they're not just going to go out of, someone saying it. But when I got caught and they raided my house, now they knew I got caught with it. I mean, and I still denied it. I said I got set up. Somebody told me to hold a box. There was marijuana in it. I don't know what was in it, but they knew I was selling the marijuana.
Now, you were mentioning Loansharking. Can you break down how that actually works?
Yeah,
what
so
that is?
When we were young, this was started in like, I think 1990, 89, 90, 91, right there. So we had a loan shark is a guy that loans out money. They call him a loan shark. And so we would go to this guy who was a very vicious guy in the Springfield area, and we would borrow the money at 2 points. So if you borrow 1,000, you pay $20 a week. That's 2 points. And so we would put it out at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. So we would take the 20 and then charge, say, 50. We'd make 30. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you got 100,000 out, you're giving that guy 2, and say you're averaging 5. You're making 5. So you're making 3,000 a week with someone else's money. Okay, so that's how we ended up having like 400,000 without he was doing it too without the mafia not knowing, the local mafia. And like I said, so people think it's like Springfield's a small city, which it is a small city, but like Connecticut, it's a vast area of land. Like Connecticut itself it's a huge area land-wise. It's not one major city, but if you go down, from Stamford to Greenwich to Stamford to Bridgeport to Danbury to New Haven to, and you keep going Hartford and right, it's like there's a lot of cities in between. So there's a lot of business that you can conduct out there without it getting back and hitting the mafia ears. When it does hit their ears, and then they come and they want a piece of it, but they don't know to the extent of what you got. And the reason how it would come to surface is with this particular loan shark, his name was Albert. That's the one we owed the 400,000 to. He wasn't giving nothing to the mafia. And what happens is he's a vicious guy and somebody can't pay. So he's going to threaten them and hurt them. The kid that he's going to threaten and hurt is scared. Who does he go to? He's either going to go to the cops, he's either going to go to the mafia guys for help, or he's going to go on the lam and take off. Or he's going to get a gun and try to kill him, And what happens in most cases, they go to the mafia guys and they say, listen, this guy Albert, is he working with you? He's looking to kill me. I owe him 20,000. I can't pay no more. They don't know about it. Now they go to Albert. They're going to kill Albert. And then next thing you know, but Albert's a crazy guy too. So, he's just not going to let him, kill him and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So that's how we ended up getting 400,000 on the street without the mom. And we gave money to everybody back then. I mean, we were giving it away like you were giving candy to a baby. Like this guy owed us 30,000. He wanted 10 more. Yeah, here's another 10.
Now the
You know?
points don't go to the actual payment. Like say you're paying $200 a week, that doesn't go towards the principal.
So it doesn't go to the principal, but you can make a loan where it does. So you can, but in our loans, it never went to the principal.
So it's like a pawn shop kind of, but just on a faster basis.
No, it's not like a pawn because this money doesn't go down ever. If I give you 10,000 and you're paying me, say 300 a week, you paid me 15,600 at the end of the year. You still owe me 10,000. So it's an infinite return on your money, number one. I just made 150% on my money in a year, and now I got all my money back. I gave you 10, you gave me 15, but you still owe me 10, and you're giving me 300 a week on that 10.
Until they physically say,
Until they
here's
say,
the 10
here,
grand.
they could say, here's 5.
Oh.
Now they only owe you 150.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, they know what they're getting into. If I tell you that's how it works, you know, I'm not twisting your arm. You want the money or not, right? So, but it's an insane amount of, you know, it's the same thing that the bankers are doing to the, you know, the world. You know, they call it's usury, but, you know, that's the same exact thing, smaller percentages. But
or the legal way now is the cash advances, the MCAs with the business cash advances.
Yeah, well, you can. It's not illegal to do it. Like, usury, it's only illegal when you go over. Like every state, like has an interest that you can charge. I can give you money legally and charge you an interest. But if I go over the legal rate, that's how it becomes a crime. And then if I threaten you and you don't pay me the money and I threaten you, that's how it becomes a major crime. And that's how these guys go away for, you know, 10 years and 15 years because of the violence.
Do you think threatening back then worked to get paid?
Yeah, because of who you were and what you represented. If I'm a guy that's known for shooting people and I come to you and say, listen, if you don't have my money tomorrow, I'm going to shoot you. You don't think you're going to be worried that I'm a shooter and I'm going to shoot you?
Yeah, I guess if you have the history of
if you have the
actually
history,
shooting
and some
someone.
people, you know, push it, and but if you know, I never had to hurt somebody over money. One person ever over money did I have to hurt. You know, if you know how to run your businesses, it's your fault if you let somebody overboard you. And then a second thing is, like I just said, say I give you 15,000, you paid me for a year, 2 years, you gave me 30,000 back on 10, right? And you still owe me 10, right? Now you come to me and you say your wife is pregnant, you got 2 other kids, this and that, and you know, can I give you a break? And I say, fuck you, Ian. No, you're going to pay me or I'll split your head. One guy said that to the guy, and he says, I don't give a fuck. I got the whole dog. I want my money every week. That's the stupidity. You know what I'm saying? That's the greed. You know, that's the stupidity of it all. Because I could have $10 million put away, and a situation like that, and I risk it all because your wife is pregnant and you can't pay a couple weeks. You know, so you have to you have to know your business, and who you're not going to let a guy bet you sports. You know, if the guy's a millionaire and he's making, you know, $1 million a year, give him $100,000 credit line. Give him a $500,000. Who cares? Let him bet $5,000-$10,000 a game. He's got the money. But if a guy's making $1,500 a week and he's got 3 kids and he's got bills to pay, how are you going to let him bet $1,000 a game? So when the guy blows $20,000-$30,000 and he doesn't have it, whose fault is it? You know, it's your own fault. So don't blame the guy for, you know, whatever. So you have to manage your businesses the right way. And they were great businesses. They were the organized crime rackets were the best rackets that there were, the most lucrative money rackets that there were. They don't exist today like they did, but they were the best.
Now, you mentioned earlier about how only it was people involved in the actual mob that would get hurt or that were technically victims. But what about when you would extort, or the mob would extort, say, a business for quote unquote protection?
Right.
How do you explain that?
So that happened pretty much back in the day. In I can only speak for our territory, you know, Connecticut and Massachusetts, Western and Central Mass, right? We never extorted up until Al Bruno became boss in 2001. We never went to businesses and told them they had to pay. There's a way to do it that's even worse than extorting them. going partners with them. And they will go partners with you. But people don't like to be told that they have to pay you money every week, especially guys that have money. They don't like to be told, like, they're worth $30 million. You could go to that guy and tell him, listen, I've done this dozens of times. Basketball Hall of Fame is in Springfield. We go to this guy. We want to put a bar restaurant in the Hall of Fame. Now, the NBA has a big say in who goes in there because it's the Hall of Fame, so, and this guy that was in it was an organized crime, a strip club owner, right? Multiple strip clubs, but he was a organized crime, our partner, right? In the Springfield area. So they wouldn't let us. But this guy was going to come up with $2 million. They asked him, how are you going to finance? He said, self-finance. He says he was going to come up with the $2 million and make us partner. And he was going to put up the $2 million cash for himself. That's how you attack people. That's how you go into business. That's how you become a powerful organization, things like that. When Bruno took over as boss, we started these extortions, and that's when you said innocent. If a sports guy on the street, loan shark on the street, that's one thing. They're not innocent. Those are street rackets that belong to the mafia. Those are mafia rackets. Those guys have to pay. Yes, you can call it extortion, rent, however you want to attribute. But when you go to a businesses, that's what Bruno started doing. He got permission to go from New York. I was at the meeting to shake down a couple of guys, the two Jimmys in our area, Jimmy Santinello and Jimmy Fiore, for $500 a week. So that's how it started. And then it ballooned into $50,000 a month we were getting from shakedowns. And that's all it does is bring in heat from the people are complaining. They go to law enforcement, which they did. We got big investigations going on us now, which they did. People don't like to pay. And, next thing you know, you went from a nice, quiet, lucrative, low radar living with millions of dollars coming in to now you're like the Wild Wild West. And it's all because of two guys in New York, Artie Nigro, the boss that took over, and John Bologna, the informant that Artie let around him. When they came up and Bruno took over, Bruno has a part to play in it too, but Bruno was looking to be like a Nicky Scarfo, have everyone pay rent. The boss of Philly there, he wanted to be like a Nicky Scarfo, everyone, to pay and pay and pay. And he did. He split it up with all of us. But that's what brings in the heat from law enforcement.
So, oh yeah, go on.
No, go ahead. That's what brings in, it's not, I don't like it. I'm not an extortionist. I'm a guy that my whole life, I didn't have to be. I mean, millions on the street. You go to a guy with money, you make money. Nobody wants to be told. I don't care if it's $300 a week. It's insulting to the guy. Go into business with him. But that wasn't the mentality that these two guys from New York and Bruno had at the time.
So 1996, you beat that weed case. Then what happens? You're
so
probably
I was
in your
shelved.
mid-20s.
Bruno wanted to kill me. Bruno wanted to kill me. I was shelved, meaning I was banished from the mafia, which is the best thing that happened to me. I made millions of dollars in those. I was banished from 96 to 98. Bruno wanted to kill me. I made more connections in the mafia, more marijuana connections, and made millions of dollars with not being in the mafia. See, I didn't need the mafia. I had a big crew of guys, my friends, not my subordinates or whatever. They were connections that I made throughout, just like I'm making now today, legitimate connections. And I made more money in those 2 years, 96 to 98, with no heat, because now I'm not hanging around the Springfield mobsters. And so when shelved means is everyone around the mafia is not supposed to hang around with me, but they all did anyways. We went out of town. I was always in Boston, New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut. And so in that time, I had the biggest nightclub in Connecticut, Club Blue in Hartford. And so I had restaurants. I had 2 restaurants in Connecticut. I had another bar restaurant in Westfield. I had another huge one down at the Cape. And this is all while I'm shelved from the mafia. So Bruno comes out in 98 because Bruno had a indictment that he had to go away for like 15 months. So he's coming out of prison around 98. and I get my case thrown out of court in 98. The informant on my case was a rogue informant. He was selling large amounts of cocaine. They caught him twice. So he was an informant for the local narcotics task force, but he got arrested twice by the state and once by like the DEA, separate occasions. So he was an informant for the locals, but then these other guys investigating drugs arrested him twice. Both times they carried like 20, 30-year sentences. He got caught with like a kilo and a gun both times. So they, we knew who my, and I ended up, because we were going to kill that kid. That I found out who my informant was. We were going to kill him. But before that, I robbed him for like close to $100,000 of money and everything. The informant on my case in that 96 case, I ended up taking him because when I got arrested in 96, he set me up. He owed me. So I was selling him marijuana, right? And he owed me, let's just say like 30, 40, because I fronted all my marijuana. So, I had hundreds of thousands on the street owed to me. But I got it fronted too. So it's like I fronted, and this and that. So this kid owes me like 40,000. And so I knew somebody set me up. I didn't know for sure who. And when I finally find, long story, I'm going to make it quick, but I find out it's this guy, I don't know if Iranian guy, whatever he was, but he's the one that set me up. And they try to be cute when they put in the time frame, someone that was at, because he wanted to switch. We had 10 pounds and he said, can you switch these out for me? And I happen to have it at my house. So I switched out the 10 pounds. Anyways, they raided my house the next day. That's when they called me. When I find out this is that, don't forget this. So he owes me like around 40,000. Plus he owes me another 20 I was juicing him, loan shark. So I'm thinking like, fuck, I don't want to kill this guy. He owes me all this money. So I got to get my money back first. So I'm talking with this guy knowing that he set me up. And I said, I get my money back from him. I go, I need my money. I go, I got to pay lawyers. I go, I need that 40,000 quick. And then I also need the 20 that I let you, now he wants to do everything he can to help me because he knows he set me up. I go, see if you can find out who set me up, who did this, who did that. He goes, yeah, I have a connection that I could find out. This is how stupid this kid is. He's got a connection that he's the guy that set me up, but he's got a connection. Anyways, I get all my money on the street off him that he owed me. And then I said, listen, I'm still he used to buy like 30 pounds at a time. So I said, I could still get you the marijuana, but you have to come up with the money up front for me to get it. So he's trying to set me up again. So I don't know if it was the cops' money that I took. I'm assuming it is because he ends up coming up with like, I want to say it was between 70 and 100,000. Let's just say that. Maybe it was 70. I don't remember, but I'm going to sell him a certain amount of marijuana. So we're going to meet. But when we're going to meet, I switch cars. I take my sister's car and he's driving in a white Cadillac. And so I'm supposed to have the marijuana, tell him where the marijuana is. So he drives by. He doesn't know I'm in the car at this corner store. He drives by me. And then he drives by me this way. He's looking for my truck. I'm not in my truck. So I go like this and he sees me and I go, follow me. So as he follows me, he's got the undercover cops following him. So it's him following me, cops following him, but they don't know that it's me in the front car. So when I pull up to this light, this cop undercover that was at my house like 3 days before, when they raided me, the same cop car is beeping a horn and he beeps and he goes, and I see him in the rearview mirror and he beeps, he goes like this and he says, and he must have went like this. He's in front of me. So the cop pretended he was waving to somebody like that, right? And he takes a left where you can't take a left. There was no left turn. So anyways, I have the guy follow me down this street, down that street, one way, this way, that way. We pull into this restaurant down the south end of Springfield. I go, you got the money? He goes, yeah, give it to me. I take it. It's in a brown bag. I go, the marijuana will be behind the dumpster on Plumtree Road at the Dairy Mart at 9:00. Boom, I take off. Boom, 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 boom. I go to my friend Johnny's package store. I say, hold this. And now I go home. 9:10 comes, 9:15. Back then was the beepers. I'm getting beeped. I'm getting beeped. He goes, hey. And then he calls me and he says, hey. He goes, there's nothing there. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I hang up the phone. Then he comes to my house and he goes, hey. He goes, what happened? He goes, I don't know. There was nothing there. And I'm mouthing. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he got that look that he acknowledged that he knew that I knew and what I did and that I knew. So then afterwards, we were going to kill him still. And we set up a meeting to do that. And at this meeting, it was a perfect spot in the back of this old parking lot. And as sure enough, before he was supposed to come there, an undercover car pulled in. Then he came. Then another undercover car came in. And so that's when we just, said, put him out there, and that was it.
Wouldn't it have been risky to kill someone that was already that?
Yeah, we were
close?
young and risk takers, so we were a wild bunch back then.
So 1998 happens when Al Bruno gets out of prison,
right?
And then you're back in.
So he summons me to come down to his restaurant. He goes, "What happened with the case?" I said, "I beat it," and I still denied that it was my weed and this and that. And so he says, "All right, so you want to?" Now he's under work release, so he goes to his restaurant, Caramia, down the South End, and then he's got to go back to the prison at night, So he says, "You want to come back around? You want to come back around me and this and that?" I said, "Sure." And he says, "You all done selling the drugs?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "All right, so he wanted to give me 25% for the sports and 25% for the Loansharking and whatever else." I go, "Bruno, if I'm coming back, I'm going to go 50-50 with you." Because I never got along with his son, Victor, back then. His son was the main one that was always going beefing on me, telling him I'm in the marijuana business and, I'm doing this. We're always fighting in this and always in trouble over here. We shot this guy over here. He was the one going back. So he goes, "You all done with all that shit?" I said, "Yeah." Anyways, I say, if I come back, I want 50%. He goes, "You want 50%? I said, "Yeah." I go, "If it's me and you," meanwhile, Bruno had 100 other partners. I'm saying me and him in our business, what I get in the sports and the loan sharking. I go, "Of course, I want 50-50. So that's how I ended up coming back around in 98.
And at that point, are you a made man yet or not yet?
No.
How old are you? You're like 26?
So I was, at this time, 1998, I'm 30.
30. Okay.
But I was proposed. Going back, I got proposed in 1990 because I went back to prison from 92 to 93. After I got out, I went back twice for more assault and batteries with dangerous weapons. So both times I beat the case. So 93 I get out. I'm still on parole, and I got proposed to be a made member with the Genovese family. Like, how he said he put me on record. Now this time he proposed me. Propose means that's one more step ahead. That means the next time they're going to make someone, you're a proposed member. If they okay you, you're going to get made. But it also means back then, if violence had to happen and someone had to get shot, you have to take part of that now. And you can't refuse, because now once you get to that level and you're proposed and you refuse, they'll kill you. So so I was proposed in, like I said, 93. I get arrested with pot. I'm not proposed no more. Now in 1998, I get proposed again. Not that right away. In 99, I get proposed. There was two other bosses at the time. Albert Babishabelli was a boss in 1998, and he was turning the power over to Anthony DeLabo, who was going to succeed Albert Shabelli as boss. So Bruno wasn't going to be boss at all. So this is like 1999 now.
And how come he wasn't going to be boss and then ended up becoming boss?
So in 2000, there was a big Mafia arrest in Springfield. They arrested like 9-10 guys, all one made guy and three made guys, mob associates, and Babishabelli, who was the boss, and Anthony DeLabo, who was going to become boss, because Baba was old. He was stepping aside, giving the reign to Anthony. Anthony was a lot younger. He was Bruno's age. He was in his 50s. But they get arrested in this racketeering case. So now they're under indictment, and they're going to go to prison. It took 3 years, but now they got arrested in 2000. 2001 comes. Now they're going to, they're under indictment. They can't move around good. They got a court case. They can't. So, so they need somebody to hands-on run the faction. And, Bruno was the next in line. So that's how Bruno ends up. New York okays Bruno to become the boss of the Springfield faction, Connecticut faction of the Genovese Crime Family.
How long does a proposal take to become a made man? Like, how long are you in limbo for?
You could take forever. You might not even get it. Just because you're proposed don't mean, like with me, I was proposed in 93, and then I fucked up and I'm taken off the list. Or you could be proposed and, the guys that proposed you end up going to prison, and the new regime comes in and they don't want you. So, things like that could happen. Yeah, just, because you're proposed don't mean you're officially going to get it, but you're on your way. You're close.
But in your case, you were proposed in 99 again.
I was proposed in 99, right?
And when do you officially become a made man?
03.
Oh, wow. It took 4 years. So what happens in between 99 and 03?
So everything. So Bruno becomes boss in 01. Now I'm with Bruno. Bruno brings me around. So there's these two guys that are proposed under Babish Shabelli and Anthony DeLavo. It's Reno Saravalo and Joey Bazil. So they're proposed to get made because, Baba was looking to build up his base because they were worried like Bruno was going to take over in power and take away from his family's rackets. They had, huge rackets and money. So Baba was older. He wants to protect his family. He's trying to, he made this guy Emilio Fusco to be made. He was a Italian immigrant from Italy. Baba made him. He hated Bruno. So he's trying to bring in everybody that doesn't like Bruno to protect his family. Even though it's like one family, it's still, treacherous, so in 2000, so now Bruno becomes boss. I'm getting very close with Bruno. And so now he puts me on the list with New York too, because it's got to get approved by New York. So there's 3 of us now that are going to get made in our Springfield immediate area. And then there's another like 5 guys in the Connecticut area that are going to get straightened out with Bruno. So there's going to be I think there was going to be 8 total that Bruno was going to make, and we're going to be under Bruno. So that's what's going on in 01. 01, I go down to New York. Bruno, I was there when Bruno became boss. Then they came up to Springfield. They had the big not a ceremony, but to tell him he's the official boss. And Bruno was so excited about it. It was you being, having the birth of your firstborn, or, the most unbelievable thing that could happen to you in life was when they told him he was the boss of the family. I was at this dinner at Springfield, downtown Springfield, at his restaurant when that happened. And he was so excited. You could just see it. He was kind of so excited, he was not shaken, but, just overwhelmed, just so happy, when, just so thrilled. And the bosses that were up from New York at that time were Pat DeLuca, Artie Nigro, and they go, "You guys listen to him now. He's the boss." And there was a few of us. I'm not made at this time. I'm just, gonna get made. And so now Bruno takes over. The extortions start, and they start getting big. And that's when Artie Nigro is just a soldier now. Artie Nigro in New York is just a soldier. And they're using a panel. Vincent DeChin's in prison. Quiet Dom's under lockup. All the other top bosses are under some sort of either in prison or bail or some sort of thing like this, or getting ready to go to jail. Ernie Muscarella, he was the boss. Mario Gigante's on the street. Larry Dentico. These guys are all running the family. Artie Nigro's just a soldier. Now I start going down to New York all the time. New York starts coming up here. I meet this guy, John Bologna. First time I meet him, I don't like him. He's got a beard. He's got sunglasses, dark hair. He looks, your first instinct on somebody. I just had a very bad vibe from the guy. Anyways, the bosses in New York want to put me with John Bologna to go collect the debt that was owed to New York from a guy in New Haven, Connecticut. So we go to the scrap metal yard, me, Bologna, I think Joey Bazil was there. And we meet with this guy and we get the money to go pay New York. So because of that, now I'm working with this John Bologna. And now he comes up at that point from 01, every single week he's coming up. And he's coming up with the bullshit that he's got a message from them to tell Bruno. So every week he's coming up to Springfield, he's having dinner, he's bringing up a few, crew of guys from the New York crews, this and that, young kids, and which we didn't care about any of them, but he's coming up. And so now every week I'm meeting them. And so I'm end up taking them out. We go to Bruno's to eat, but then we go to the strip clubs and the bars, and we're hanging out in Springfield, Connecticut. I had my club at the time in Connecticut Blue. We're hanging out there. So he's coming up every week. Now, going forward, Bruno is still the boss. We're going into like 2002, and Bruno's doing a great job. The extortions are coming up. Money never ever went down to New York. The Mafia bosses in New York never got money from the Springfield bosses. It just never was a case. We had our own rackets, and we had a multi-million-dollar rackets. I mean, all the rackets that we had, and there was dozens and dozens of made guys throughout Connecticut and Massachusetts with other families and everything, and they were all multimillionaires. So no money ever went down there. Bruno starts doing the extortion. We're doing now $50,000 a month. He starts sending like $12,000, $15,000 a month to New York. All because at this time, Artie Nigro becomes a boss in New York. Bruno doesn't know this, okay? And this is where everything goes bad, right around end of 02-ish and the beginning of 03. And that's how everything starts to unfold. And when you said I got made in 03, I start getting closer to the New York bosses and the New York crew of people. I'm meeting other bosses without Bruno being there. Like, I'm going down meeting these people. And so one time I'm in New York, and the boss of the Gambinos pulls up, and we're on the streets in the Bronx. And he says, me and Artie get in the car. At this time, I wasn't made. I don't know if I was made at this time. It was around 03. I got made in 03, but he says, what's JB doing here? And Artie, JB, John Bologna, was outside in the streets over there, and he says, we chased him. He's no good. He's an informant. Now, at this time, I put in work where JB could put me in jail the rest of my life on the work I did. A shooting in New York City. I believe this was before Bruno's hit. Before that hit that, but other multiple murder conspiracies that he could put me in. So he tells me this. I said, Artie, what's the story with this guy after we got out of the car? What's the story, what he said about Bologna, being an informant? He says, I don't pay no mind. Their jealousies around me now. So, that's a big part of the story. So at this time, this guy, John Bologna, was like the messenger coming back from New York to Springfield, going back and reporting. Now, don't forget, Bruno doesn't know Artie assumes position as boss because Ernie Muscarella, who's a very powerful boss, he's still alive to this day, he's going to prison. He wants Artie to take his place on the panel. The other two bosses, Mario and Larry, don't want Artie there. He was only a soldier. He doesn't belong there. He shouldn't be there. They wanted, I believe they wanted Pat DeLuca. I'm not sure 100%, but Pat DeLuca's older, more, seasoned at the job and had a very good love for the Springfield faction. But Ernie wanted Artie there. So Artie becomes the boss. Bruno doesn't know. Artie was a greedy boss, and he was in a position he shouldn't have been in. He's got John Bologna around him. Now, we just were told by the Gambinos that John Bologna is an informant. But it gets worse than that. When I go back, sometime later, the Connecticut faction of the Patriarca family, Rico Petrillo, and Anthony Beaver Asencia, I have a meeting with them. There was both captains with the Patriarca family. They're both from Connecticut. And they both tell me that the guy that comes up with the beard, which is John Bologna, is an informant. Be careful with that guy. They had some good information, right? And so that's two that had this. And, fast forward, I went down to Artie again with this information and asked to clip Bologna, send him up. You'll never see him again. This is a second people, because this is a guy that could give me life in prison. He knows enough that can get me the rest of my life in prison, so it's not a good feeling, and so Artie protected him. Artie never sent them back up. After I said that, Artie never sent them back up in our area to see us without him being present with them. So 2003-ish is coming, and Bruno's falling out of line. Why? Because they're looking to take over our area. Artie with John Bologna going back with the messages. They're looking to get rid of Bruno, not kill him. They're looking to get rid of Bruno to where they can take him down, strip him of his rank. They want to take him as a boss, which is he's a boss of the Springfield, Connecticut faction. People always say, why do you say boss? Because that's what he is. He's a boss. He's a captain overall in the family, but when you Google him and you read newspaper articles, what does it say? He was a boss. So, so they're trying to strip Bruno of his rank because they want to take over all the rackets. Like I said, we had an empire within an empire. Our faction, the Springfield faction, Connecticut, my crew alone, we're all multimillionaires. Just my crew. And, you're talking dozens and dozens of guys everywhere. So they wanted full access. So who's the boss of the faction in New York? Now it's Artie. He's a greedy boss. He's got this lowlife around him who's an informant, giving him all information, and they're poisoning the mind on Bruno. So he's poisoning the mind. Now, Bruno had a lot of enemies, and I wasn't one of them. I wasn't a Bruno hater, but Bruno had a lot of haters. Everyone hated Bruno when it came to the organized crime guys. The Emilio Fusco, Felix Tranghese, DeLavo. Him and DeLavo actually got into a fight. DeLavo bit him in the ear. So the Puglianos, all the made guys, because Bruno was, just not liked amongst them. He was liked amongst the public, but the gangsters didn't like him in our area. Now, the outside of our area, Boston gangsters, New York gangsters, yeah, Florida, when we go down there, you get treated good, but our own guys. So they all start knocking him and trying to get him demoted, and it's working. So now what they're saying that he drinks too much, that they're just coming up with excuses that he shouldn't be boss, and they're trying to get him demoted. Never killed, though. Never killed. And so what's happening now is I'm going down and getting more power in New York. Like the bosses are calling me down without Bruno, by myself. And because they know I had the biggest crew. When the New York guys came up here, like I said, John Bologna, they seen my crew. They seen what I had. They seen the guys around me. They seen how we conducted ourselves, that we were in fights all the time. And I'm talking vicious fights where, and they seen how my crew acted and what we were capable of. And then the amounts of money that we were bringing in, they didn't know for sure about, my exact rackets. Like I was still selling the marijuana. Nobody got a piece of that. But so more and more they keep bringing me down there. And that's how I end up getting made, because Artie wants me to, he's the boss now, like I said. So he wants to make the Joey Bazil and the Reno Sarabalo, those two guys I told you about, that were going to be made under Babish Shabelli and Anthony DeLavo. But now I'm involved. He wants to make me. So he wants to make the three of us, but he wants to make us down in New York City under him. You follow me? So
he wanted to steal you from
he wanted it from Bruno, right?
Okay.
So instead of Bruno making us up here, he wants the loyalty to come to him, where we report to him. So the difference is, if you get made in New York City, I'm going to report to New York City. I don't report to Springfield. Now, even though Springfield's its own faction, the power base is in New York. So who do you think is going to have all the power? The guy that reports to New York. He's going to be the actual guy with all the power. And so that's what's happening. So now what happens is this treachery is getting really bad now. This John Bologna is out of control. And he's looking to shake down even like friends of mine, my partner in the bar business. And I used to sell marijuana with him. He goes, "Who's that?" I go, "That's my partner." He goes, "Tell him to pay you $500 a week." I go, "I'm not telling him to pay me $500 a week." I go, "That's my friend." He goes, "You got no friends. All your friends are in New York." Right? And this is how he would talk. And then I asked him another time, I go, "John," I go, "you want to shaking down, all these people, you and Artie, you want to shaking down all these people and all." I go, "Would you do that in New York?" And he was from Portchester. "Would you do that there?" He goes, "Are you fucking crazy? I get 30 years. I go, "What the fuck you think we're going to get here?" But they didn't care. They didn't care. They were going to destroy our area. You follow me? So now I get called down to New York. And Artie wants to see me. Now Artie's official boss now. Bruno doesn't know Artie's the boss. I know, but I can't say anything. I'm told to not say anything. They want me to kill a union guy down in New York on the streets. Artie brings me there in John Bologna. They bring me to a place where he comes out at the Bronx, and he comes out he's a head of the union. He's a labor union boss, one of those guys. And there's some sort of beef going on and blah, blah. Artie wants him dead. He tells me this is where he parks, and boom, have it done. Okay, so, he says, have Joey and Reno do it with you because those two are going to get made. So he wants the three of us to, and I have a huge crew. I didn't need Joey Reno. I had my other two friends, Freddie and Ty, but I had a vast amount of crew of guys that were capable of doing this type of hit. But Joey and Reno, when I went back to them and told them what the boss wanted in New York, they both got scared. Reno, I can understand his thing because he was a construction worker. He had nothing going on in the streets. He was just like a figurehead type of thing, and he wasn't a bad kid. But Joey was a one that wanted it, always coming around and, acting like, he wanted to get made. And as soon as the order comes and the pistola comes out, he ran away. And he's going to get killed for that. If nobody goes to jail and everyone stays out, he's a dead man for that. And you can just ask any street guy that refuses a boss's order. Like I said, once you're on that list and you're proposed and the boss gives you an order and you don't do it, you're gone. So he's lucky he's alive, and he can talk all the shit he wants, but he's lucky he's alive for the timing of it all. And so I go to my other two friends, and it was like asking them to go to dinner because we grew up, we were always, like I said, violent, the crazy fights our whole life, violence, even me and Ty. So when I went to prison at a young age, Ty Giaz was with me. He was only like 18, and we were causing trouble all throughout state prison. And we got warned if we keep getting in trouble, we're going to get thrown to the max. And he ended up getting in more trouble and got thrown into the max. And then he beat up guards, and then he went to, the hole and whatever. So I go to them, and boom, we get the job done. Long story short, we go down and shoot the union guy 9 times on the streets of New York. That was in like April of 2003. And then in August of 2003, that's what gets me made. Artie, the boss in New York, says, what happened to Joey and Reno? And I said, Joey ran away. And Reno, I just gave him a pass because Reno didn't know who was like the boss. He was working for Felix. You had John Bologna coming up, giving orders from Artie. You had Bruno still alive, telling him he's the boss. And then you got me saying, listen, when Bruno's there, listen to Bruno. When John's there, no, listen to John. And so he was all confused. So he didn't know what was going on. So he says, tell Joey, Artie was pissed. Artie was going to kill him. He goes, tell Joey shelved, and we'll deal with him later. And I know he was going to have him clipped, but everything happened bad after that. There was so much, So that's how I ended up getting made.
Doesn't it not make sense to bring multiple people, though, to a murder? There's like so many witnesses.
So you definitely need help when you kill someone. And, everyone says do it yourself. You can't really do a murder yourself. It's impossible. It's not impossible, but, I just don't think... it's very hard just by yourself. And in this case, with the union guy we shot, so there was Artie that knew. I mean, the bosses in New York knew. That's why we were loved in New York. My crew, I put us on the map, like I said. They loved us in New York. The fact that we could come from Springfield and shoot a guy 9 times on the streets of New York, meant something. So they loved us. But yeah, you had John and Artie, and then there's, like me, like I'm not going to tell anybody. Like they told me to tell Joey and Reno. So, but they don't know who we're hitting, when we're hitting, and how we're hitting. So all I know is they wanted us to go on a hit. They don't know who though. And then you had the 2 brothers.
What were your thoughts about murder back then?
I didn't have any thoughts. I just saw an interview, like it didn't, and I'm being honest when I say that. People can say it bothers them. It would bother me if I had to kill somebody that didn't deserve it or was, innocent. They're getting killed for a lie but we all chose that life to get into it, knowing that, you could die on the streets. And so when you kill someone, you could be on the other end of it going for, like, even me. Like, I participated in murder. Tomorrow I could be killed. That's it. So I'm dead. Um, yeah, it didn't affect me because I know it's part of that life. It's like, and I'm being honest when I say that it didn't affect me when I killed people, when I participated in murder, and I slept beautiful afterwards. And people can say they don't believe that, but that's the truth. That's me. I can't speak for any other guy that did that. Now, if I want to come out here and tell you, I changed my life and it hurts me and all that for the cameras and for the this and that. Do I now? Yeah, I'm saying it for the cameras. Now, here's what I will say. Regret? Do I wish it didn't happen? 100%. Do I wish I never took place in the murders? 100%. That's what I will tell you 100% honestly, that I wish the violence didn't happen. But do I lose sleep over it? No. And because the same circumstances, if they killed me, they wouldn't lose sleep over it. The same people that I participated in wouldn't give two shits about me if it was the other way around.
Would you have killed that guy if you weren't ordered to do it?
I have no reason to. I didn't know him. I never met the guy. I'm going to the streets, and I have to drive 2 hours to New York to shoot a guy I never met in my life. And so, and take that risk. We're driving down there with silencers. We have bad records, state prison records, numerous arrests, the worst of the worst. If we get caught with those guns, we're getting 20 years. And then if we get caught in the act of doing that crime, we're getting 100 years. So here we are risking all of that to go to New York to shoot a guy that I don't even know, that did nothing to me. And we get away with it, and nobody can know about it except for 3 guys that did it and the bosses in New York and the informant, John Bologna.
Tell us what it's like to actually get made.
So it's a dream come true for someone in that era. And like I said, if you were Italian and you were young and wild, your dream, if you were violent, your dream is to be a made guy. So everyone that's in that life back then. Today, no, but back then there was only one. It was like the only one major leagues. The Mafia was the major leagues. Everything else was I don't care what group of criminals they were. They were beneath the Mafia. It ain't like that anymore, and it hasn't been like that for years. But when I was growing up, there was the major leagues, and that was the Mafia. So it was the goal to be a made guy, and so being made. But in my case, everything bad happened after being made. I never needed to be made. I was a multimillionaire prior to being made. Like I said, in the years that I was shelved from the Mafia, I made millions of dollars. And the only thing that being made did to me was make me participate in murders, which made what drew the scrutiny of every law enforcement in the region. I had the New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Mass, FBI and state police all down my throat, bugging and everything I drove, and phones and cars and restaurants and strip clubs and bars. And, so it brought me nothing but heat. And it didn't bring me any more. The only thing positive it did for me, networking wise, if I could have lasted on the streets, I would have made hundreds of millions, because networking, I'm good at that. And I had, with the interactions now that I'm a made guy and I'm sitting down with bosses. I sat with the boss in Providence, Louis, the boss in Boston. I was always there. It's only an hour away from Springfield. So I'm going to everywhere I go, I'm able to sit down and what type of deals, legitimate deals that they got going on, whether it's the construction, the concrete, any type of and the Whole Foods type things where you can sell to anything that we had the Costco's, the ATM machines, So that part of networking, it was good, and that's what they're doing today. The Mafia is they're keeping it legit, and they're not doing violence anymore, and they're keeping it and it's and that's why they're lasting, in the bigger city.
So after you get made, what happens?
So after everything bad happened, so I got made in August 11th of 03, and then I'm in a war. My 2 friends, Freddie and Ty, they hated this the Manzi family. And the Manzies were I was not partners. I had the kid selling. He sold marijuana for me my whole life through the 90s. I got him started. Um, they came here with nothing. They lived like peasants. The family was from. They got chased out of Italy, and there was a war going on. They got chased and they fled here. And the father ended up getting stuck there. The father was a serious guy. Tony was a serious guy. He was the only one. But they all could make money. So what would you just ask me?
What happens after you got made?
Oh yeah. So Freddie and Ty, that they've been in prison. They're real serious prison. Ty especially been in prison his whole life, and they see a kid like him, this kid, Giuseppe Manzi, making money and acting a part that he doesn't deserve. Like he'll tell you, he can do this. He's full of shit. He can make money. He's as far as making money goes, but he's full of shit when it comes to the violence. Yeah, he did this and he did that, and he's gonna do this. He ain't gonna do shit. And there's multiple tests that always said that. So they hated him. Now I didn't care because I made money with the kid. I made money with the Manzi's kid, and but they hated him. They would go around and just harass him. They robbed the cousin for $150,000. I never got a piece of it. I never. They robbed the Manzi family for the cousin for $150,000, like a marijuana deal. When they told the kid he was going to pay, they brought him to his house, stuck a gun to his head. Ty picked him up, slammed him to the ground. The kid shit his pants, pissed his pants, begged for his life. And the funny part about it is, their cousin is married to the Manzi family. So it's like, they're like, it's crazy. Like the cousin is married. So, anyways, they robbed the family. Then they go over to the other kid, Manzi's restaurant. They break his windows. Ty goes to his house, smashes his door, telling him to come out. The kid's hiding in his house. He's calling me. What does this kid want with me? What does he want me? Then he has the kid's father, Tony Manzi from Italy, calls me up. Anthony, why is it your friends are bothering my son? Please watch out for my son. Please don't let nothing happen. Now, in the meantime, I already killed and shot and stabbed my two friends, and I'm saying, Tony, they don't like him. I go, it's got nothing to do with me. So everything I'm telling you has got nothing to do with me. They don't like him. It's got nothing to do with me. They robbed the cousin. It's got nothing to do with me. They robbed the cousin for $150,000. They didn't give me a penny. I didn't want a penny. They were in prison. I'm not going to take a penny for them. But guess who they gave money to at the time? Bruno. They gave Bruno $5,000. And this is after Bruno slapped Ty around. Bruno slapped Ty Giaz around 5 times, in the car, boom, boom, boom. And Ty, let me tell you something, probably one of the most vicious guys you'll ever meet in the world. I'll put him up there in the world. I mean, he's that type. You talk to guys in the federal prison, we'll ask about him, and I'll put him right up there with anybody as vicious as there is in the world. So, but Ty didn't do anything because of me. I was there. But Ty, I thought he was going to get out of the car and kill Bruno. So because of this, they're abusing this Manzi's, and we're out one night. I'm dressed like in a sports coat. We're having fun. I'm made at the time, and we get a call that the Manzi kid got into a beef with someone that Ty knows. So we go down to the bar. They had left, but they're at this other bar. So now we go to this other bar, and we beat and shoot and stab, and Ty stabbed someone with an ice pack. We're shooting guys. We shot 3 guys, and we're hitting guys with golf clubs. Big thing. We almost got arrested. Cops pull us over, but Freddie took off with the gun, so we didn't get arrested. We just pretended, like, oh yeah, there was a big fight here, and we don't know what's going on. And so because of that, now I'm involved in this hatred of my two friends got. So my house gets shot. 2 days later, I'm at my nightclub, and someone goes by and shoots my house 30, 25 times. So this is right after I got made. And from that point on, nothing else matters to me is to kill this Manzi's. And that's all I wanted to do. So that's it. Right after I got made, that's all I wanted to do was kill the Manzi's. Obviously, other people got murdered, but so now I'm on a mission to kill them. And then Manzi didn't do it. This bullshit in Weasel he takes credit like he did it. He ain't got balls to do something like that. But like he'll tell somebody, he goes, I did that. He's a weasel. Just like when they were coming up from Boston, they were going to make him and Bobby DeMarco. He kept Bobby telling him, stop telling you people, these guys, you did that, because they're going to come up and tell people that you did that, and they're going to want us to do that. And I'm not doing that. So stop telling them that you did this in Italy, you bullshitter. Everyone knows he's a bullshitter, the kid, He's a salesman. That's all he is. He's a big mouth salesman. So that's how it started. Right after I got made 03, all that shit starts happening. Now I'm looking at, we were driving around that same night with AK-47s. I had 4 carloads of us. So now that's going on. And then, like a few weeks later, all kinds of violence happened.
Do you end up getting those guys?
So I pled guilty to conspiring to murder him, but I never got him.
Oh, they arrested you?
Yeah. Well, no, when I got arrested in the 2010 case, that was one of the charges.
On.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, we shot at his car with a machine gun. He escaped. We had the guy waiting in the back of his restaurant with the AK-47, but he never came out that night. We had people at his house he was a paranoid weirdo. So he wouldn't come out of his house. He'd go through the backyards to go to his restaurant, because his restaurant was like right there. So we would have the car drive and just catch him by chance. We were trying that. And then one time me and Freddie were going to walk in there and shoot him right inside the restaurant, but there was cameras everywhere. He had staff there. But we were going to try to get him out the back door. He had a back door, but there was cameras there. So, and then other murders happened, and there was just so much heat all over the place. So that took part in it as well.
What ends up happening to Al Bruno?
So Bruno ends up getting killed. Yeah. In 03.
Oh, the same year you got made?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I got made in August. He got killed in November.
And did he even know that you got made?
He didn't know. We weren't going to tell him, because I got made in New York City. They told me not to tell him, but he knew that I was made, but he didn't hear it from me, and he didn't hear it officially from he just he heard it in a way where he knew. He was told by a boss in New York that when he sees me, to treat me like he would treat the boss in New York.
So New York called the hit for Al Bruno?
Yeah, New York.
Why did they decide to, instead of push him away, ended up killing him? Because you said for years they didn't want to.
Right. So they were going to take him down from end of 02. They were going to demote him. And then 03, they were looking to demote him. They were going to, don't forget, I'm going to get made. So now they figured me, Joey, and Reno were going to get made. But they didn't need Joey and Reno, because my crew, I get made, and I got the biggest crew and the most vicious crew and the most lucrative crew. So they got me. And then they got this idiot, Felix Tranghese, who was just a soldier, and they were going to take Bruno down, and they were going to prop Felix up as like a lightning rod new boss, right? And he was going to be the one to take all the heat from the feds, because that's what the Genovese family does. They're great at it. They're going to, Felix is the boss, and let all the informants go around and tell, so it gets back to the feds that Felix is Meanwhile, I'm already made, and I'm the most powerful guy outside of New York. Right. So I got made in New York City with the bosses of the most powerful family. So I'm the most powerful guy outside of New York, especially in my crew, in my Connecticut and Mass, faction. So Bruno's going to get demoted, get taken down. And what happens is those guys that got arrested in 2000, those 9 guys, for the RICO case, they're going to get sentenced. Now, this is like in 2003. It took 3 years, but now they're going to get sentenced. And one of the made guys, Emilio Fusco, is going to get his discovery. And he's going to get like 23 months. But instead of getting 23 months, he gets 33 months, right? Instead of 24, he gets 33, something like that, right? And so he goes, why are you giving me more time? And he says, because you're a made guy. And he says, I'm not a made guy. He goes, why you say I'm a made guy? And he speaks broken English. Why you say I'm a made guy? And he goes, here, this is why. And they show him, and he had the worst attorney too. Anthony Cardinelli's the worst attorney that there is. Everybody, Anthony Cardinelli, defense attorney, represented, And Julo's 45 years. Gotti's case, 100 life, this, that, everybody, 20 years. He's a buffoon. He's a gangster wannabe. So he's representing a million. Now, anyone that knows, all right, so he shows him this paper. You were in federal prison, okay? You know what a 302 is?
Yeah.
Okay, so Emilio Fusco gets a 302. Let's just pretend I'm going to read you what's on it, and I'm not going to tell you who said it, okay? Emilio Fusco gets a year more in time, right? And it's on the paper. It says, how do you know I'm a made guy? So in the 302, it says, they asked this person, is Emilio Fusco a made guy? FBI agent asked this person, is Emilio Fusco a made guy? Yes. When was he made? He goes, he was made while I was in prison. I heard you guys don't like him, that he's a fresh mouth or fresh kid. But yeah, he was made. I was against it. I was in prison when he got made. And how many other made guys you got in the immediate Springfield faction? You tell them how many guys they got made in the Springfield faction. Something about this other guy that cooperated, Cookie Durso, that his name, because Bruno was going to do something for Cookie Durso. He was another violent Genovese guy. He was in New York. They tried to kill him. He was down in Florida. So all this stuff comes out on a 302. And Emilio Fusco gets an extra year for it. And it's Bruno, the guy talking on the 302.
Bruno's the one that's a snitch?
Yeah. Well, there you go. You just said it. Why'd you say snitch? Because he's on the 302, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you ask anybody. You're a guy. You're not really like a street guy, right? You're into more of a. But you even said it. You've been in federal prison. You know.
That would be considered a snitch.
Right. And if you went to a serious federal prison and you had that type of a 302, what would happen?
If whoever's written on that name, you wouldn't be able to walk, or you wouldn't be able to hang out with them, or be a part of them.
And if he was in a penitentiary and it came out, he'd probably get killed.
Yeah.
Right?
If his name was on that as the person.
Yeah, well, Bruno's name was on that.
So that's why they whacked
Bruno
him.
Was on the paper. Now, if you ask that, this is how stupid people are. You know, they're like, I don't want to see Bruno die. Like I said, my beef, I wanted to kill the Mansies. I want to live a good life and eat, drink good, and boop, boop, boop. And, but Emilio Fusco gets the paper. He shows it to Felix. Felix, they both hate Bruno. They both call up New York to the informant, John Bologna. John Bologna tells Artie, who's the boss. Artie tells Felix to bring the paper down. Felix brings the paper down. Artie sees it. Artie goes and has a sit down with the other two mafia bosses, Larry and Mario. Artie calls for Felix to come back down to New York, right? And then Artie gets the order with the three bosses together, and the order is to Felix to kill Bruno, not me. So am I in it at all in any way?
No.
Right. So all that I just told you 100% is 1,000% is true.
Why do people say you're involved?
Because now, and you said it earlier, why do people know so much about a murder, right? The less is better. Yeah, the less is better, but you still need help. So Felix comes back. He's not supposed to tell me he got an order from New York. I'm more powerful than he is. I'm the boss. I'm the guy that got made down in New York. And if anything, the boss in New York is going to tell me to kill Bruno, right? I don't take orders from Felix, right? I don't take orders from nobody. I got made in New York City, right? So I take orders from the bosses in New York City, right? So Felix comes back. He's not supposed to tell me. Like if I got told to kill somebody in New York, like I didn't tell Felix about the guy we shot in New York. Why didn't I tell him? Because like you said, nobody's supposed to know. The more people that know, the worse it is. It's the less better, right? I'm not going to tell somebody to put another witness that could, eventually testify against me one day. So Felix comes back and he tells me, because he knows he doesn't have a crew that can kill Bruno. So he comes back and tells me, and he says, oh, yeah, we got to kill Bruno. I said, no. You got to kill Bruno. You got the order to kill Bruno, not me. I take orders from New York, not you. So they gave Felix the order. Felix couldn't get it done. A few weeks go by, he can't get it done. I get called down to New York. I'm not supposed to know about the murder. Artie gets me on the streets. We're walking up and down the streets of New York. He says, you know what's going on? I say, no. I play dumb. I say, no. And meanwhile, the informant, John Bologna, knows about the murder. He's not even a made guy. He's a known informant, and it comes out all this is true. He is an informant from the 90s. He is an informant. And so John Bologna knows about it. I pretend I'm dumb. I don't I don't know nothing about it. Like, no, what's going on? And he says, we're going to take Bruno out. He goes, I don't want you to get involved directly. I don't want you to, use use your guys and this and that, but don't, and try to make the body disappear. And that's how I ended up, getting involved in the Bruno murder.
But you didn't actually pull the trigger
No.
on him. That they had guys, they took him out.
We had guys. My crew took them out, but we helped plan it. After I got told, that's when we participated a little bit. I still didn't think it was going to happen. Freddie was in prison with this kid, Frankie, who was a serious kid. They all said he was on drugs and he's a crackhead. 100% not true. The kid could do 25 sets of 20 pull-ups. The kid was sculpted like a Greek god, like he was made out of cement. And he had a reputation throughout state prison and as a serious badass dude. What happened was they arrested him. They shot him with one of those big AR-15s or whatever when they were arresting him. And so he lost a ton of weight. He came into court looking all skinny. So they labeled him, oh, why would you get a crackhead to do this hit? He was not a crackhead. He was the furthest thing from it. Serious. I mean, he was respected by all inmates, blacks, Spanish, and whites in serious prisons. And I was told that to my face. So Freddie was in prison with him, said he could get the job done, and he did get it done.
When Bruno's taken off the board, do you take over Bruno's position in Springfield?
No, see, that I was already ahead of Bruno. I didn't have to kill Bruno. See, that's so I get made in August of 2003. Bruno's alive, and there's no hit out on Bruno. In fact, there's another hit on somebody else at the time, and we killed somebody else on the time after that. So there's no word of Bruno getting hit. Now, when I get made in 2003, I am the most powerful guy. I just have to be introduced to, outside of our area, to Boston and Providence and throughout Connecticut, to guys when I need to be. So, like, for instance, if I go to Boston and I'm looking to do a garbage business deal with a garbage route, and it's mob connected, and they say, that's okay, set up a meeting, and now I show up at the meeting. I need them to acknowledge who I am instead of saying, who are you? Why are you here? See, we have to be officially introduced. Once that happens, I sit down with anybody throughout the whole country, and I'm an equal, but I'm more powerful because I'm representing the Genovese family, the most powerful family in the country.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's no thought of Bruno being taken out. I'm made, so I'm the most. But see, we're trying to keep me. Don't forget, it's 2003. All the racketeering laws came out, the RICO. There's informants everywhere. The streets are loaded with informants everywhere, especially, everywhere, every city, New York. So they're trying to protect me. They want me to last. I got the biggest crew. I'm making the most money, and they're trying to make it so nobody knows I'm a made guy. It's never mind the boss. So they're trying to insulate me. That's what they did with the Genovese family, did for years with all their bosses, but most notably the Fat Tony Salerno and the Chin. They put Fat Tony up as the boss. Meanwhile, the Chin was the boss, Same thing they did years later. They do it forever. So they're trying to insulate me so I can be safe and from law enforcement scrutiny.
So how long are you able to stay safe before you finally end up getting taken down?
2 days.
2 days?
Yeah, Bruno gets killed November 4th. No, November 23rd of 2003. And I get indicted November 25th of 2003 for not murder, but for racketeering. So I bailed out for like $250,000 bail, all kinds of, it was a state case, money, sports, gambling, loan sharking, extortions, all this usual racket, number business, money, all the regular rackets, right? And so I bail out $250, but now I got all heat on me. Well, they know Bruno's dead, but I'm not a suspect at this point. But I get heat on me. And so I get put on a curfew. I can go out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So they got me on a $250 bail and a curfew that I can go out to. I got to be home at 6 p.m. because they're getting word now that me and my crew took out Bruno. But they don't know why. But, obviously they don't know why. But, yeah, so 2 days later I get arrested.
And that's the state case.
And that's his first state case, yeah.
And how long are you fighting that case for?
So 2003 comes, now I'm out, and I'm trying to, and like I said, I got rackets that are bringing in millions of dollars, and I'm in charge of it all. And I'm also trying to kill my enemies still, right? I'm not going to stop trying to kill them. I have lust to kill them. Like, that's what I want to do, is kill them. Like you say, like people say when they kill and they go to sleep afterwards. Yes, I go to sleep afterwards. But with them, I'll have like a party before I go to sleep if I could kill them, and party every day the rest of my life. So, so that's what I'm trying to do, is make money, avoid law enforcement, because now at this time they know that I'm responsible, me and my crew, and we're dangerous individuals, because there's more murders that happen right after that. Before murder, there was Bruno. There was another murder that the guy went missing, and we were the principal guy's the suspicion that did it. So I got nothing but lawn for it. Like I had him parked in front of my house. If I left my house, I'd have to go out the back door, go through 2 bushes, and then go to the next street, get picked up, because I had to still put together these rackets. Don't forget, when Bruno died, I had to put together all the stuff that we had, that he had, the street stuff, and get it so no one else gets it, And so, like the numbers business, I had to fight to tell people. And don't forget, they don't know I'm made. And the old timer Baba's got it. And I tell the guy to work for him, I go, no, it's ours. And he's like, who are you? Dude, I'll cut your head off and leave your head on a sidewalk. Don't ever get involved in a number business again. It's my business. Like, but they don't know who I am, because, we're keeping everything secret. And so I'm trying to make money. So 03 goes by, still doing the same thing. We're trying to kill Manzies. We shoot him down at the downtown Springfield. He survives that. We trying to get him at his restaurant. I'm still putting together the number. Now we're taking over Babish, all his stuff. I'm in the vending business. We got the Joker poker slot machines everywhere. We're expanding on that. We're going everywhere. I'm meeting with all kinds of captains of different families and doing it. 05 comes, and I get indicted again by the feds. And it was from an old gambling case from 01. You know how they go 5 years, they investigate you? So it started in like 01 or 2000. And, they go for an 18-month extension, then an 18-month extension, then a 24-month extension. So they went 5 years. And the only thing they got on me was sports gambling and money laundering. So it was nothing. So I get bailed on that. So that was like in February of 05. So now I got 2 cases pending. So I get bailed out on that. And now I got 2 cases pending. And then I'm out there doing the same thing, trying to kill them, making money, trying to do all that. And then I get indicted again by the state organized crime task force. This time they had a listening device in where we used to do the work every Sunday. We used to do the loan shark and the sports and the numbers. And they put a listening device inside the house of one of my guys. So I get indicted for that. Now I got 3 cases and I get no bail. Okay. But there was no violence in the 3 cases. It was just all like money cases. That's why I say the money cases, if I could go back in life and do all the money cases, I'd do it in a heartbeat. You make millions of dollars and risk not going to jail at all. 3 money cases, no violence. 05, I'm in prison, no bail. And I plead guilty to 3 to 3.5 in the state. And I had the best attorney. Vinny Bongiorni's the best attorney out there. He makes Anthony Cardinale looks like a dumb mental patient. That's how good Vinny is compared to, and Anthony's supposed to, they say he's supposed to be good. So Vinny gets me a deal, a plea deal where I plead guilty to all 3 cases, 3 to 3.5 in the state, and 29 months in the feds running concurrent. So I take the deal. Man, I already got 6 months in. So I go to jail from 05 to 08. And then while I'm in prison from 05 to 08, I'm doing my time. I get indicted again in 07 for an extortion case. Me and the 2 brothers, Freddie and Ty. And this time, I go to trial and we get found not guilty. So I beat that case and I'm finally free in 08. I get on the streets in 08.
During those state cases and even in the feds during that period of time, what was it like to be in prison with being a high-ranking mobster?
It's good and bad. I never needed that reputation to get by in prison. I'm not I'm not a drug addict. I don't, I take bets. I don't get in trouble. I'm not looking, I'm easy to get along with, so I'm not going to be getting into fights. I don't get into none of the bullshit. But being a made guy is good because everybody wants to be, it's kind of like, I'm not sick of it, but everyone is around you. They want to be around you because, and for the most reason is they know they can make money with you when they get out. You can put them on something. Hey, guys in Worcester, hey, it's all about, making money when we get out. But it's also bad is because I was notorious at this point. I had a notorious name. And when that happens, they send you to the max, because you're high level, high security. In fact, I was at a medium and I got called to the IPS, the inner perimeter security. They're like cops inside the prison. And he goes, how did you get by us? Because I go in, I'm very low key. I'm not, walking around like I'm, flamboyant gangster, like that. I'm not looking to, I'm already got money. I'm not looking to make, a few dollars on selling tuna fishes and mackerels in prison. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just trying to get by with my time and not get in trouble. I got 3 kids I want to get visits from. And, so I'm just looking to do a piece, my bidding is a nice, peaceful time.
And live comfortably.
Live comfortable. Like we ate good. We busted balls. We have fun in there. We'll play sports. We work out, bust balls constantly and make the best of it. Read all good books and who wants to get in trouble and go to a hole and sit in a hole and stare at these 4 walls all day for something stupid?
So no one messes with the mafia in prison.
And no, it's not that they don't mess with them. You still got to conduct yourself a certain way. I mean, you can't be, but they want to be around you. The blacks, Spanish, whites, whatever, they want to, be around you because, like I said, they know if you're a made guy, you had to be pretty something, you had to be smart enough, powerful enough, and something to get that position. And once you're I was in the papers all the time, newspapers, news, we'd go back, they'd see me on the news inside prison. We all had TVs, and so they want to be around you. They love the camaraderie of it. They want to be part of it. If you need anything done, you just let me know. I'll shoot anyone for you for nothing. They just want to be part of that, so there was no it helps though, you build that reputation up on the streets, and when you go to prison, that's where, it falls back on you, where you build it up for a purpose like that.
Now, are you guys able to corrupt prison officials just like you're able to corrupt officials out on the street?
Yeah, that, it's prison guards, mostly prison guards. Prison officials would be if you want moves. Like I had them all, but I was just so high profile that nobody would touch me. Like nobody would go near my case. Like when I went to prison in 1990 and I was, nothing to do with the mafia, just a young kid, I could have anything I want in prison. Any food all the time from the streets, woman. I didn't do drugs, but if I got drugs in, I had my guy, a guard, bring me in. So he goes and meets my friend, and because one of the black inmates I was friends with, he goes, Anthony, you got all these guards over, because I knew them all. There was the local jail. Half of them bet with me, or they owed me money on Loanshark, or owed our guys money on Loanshark. Grew up with my father, so they would come and visit me, bring me grinders and all kinds of stuff. And back in the 90s, there was less heat on all that stuff, And he goes, but this was in 05. I did this. No, yeah, I think it was in 05. So he comes up to me, goes, can you get me any marijuana? I go, why, you want some marijuana? He goes, yeah, can you get it? He goes, I can make a lot of money with it in here, because they make those little pin joints or whatever and this and that. So I have my friend Louie meet one of the guards. So he goes, yeah, Aunt wants me to bring him in some marijuana. So Louie takes out a pound of pot, like a bag like this. And he goes, yeah, here, bring him in that. And the kid's eyes come out of his head. He goes, I can't bring him in that fucking much. He goes, are you crazy? He starts laughing. And he goes, no, what can you bring him in? How much can it? So he brings him in like a huge amount. I give it to the black guy. He drops it off on my cell. I give it to the black dude, Willie. And he comes back up to me, goes, Anthony. He goes, what are you, crazy? He goes, how long you plan on staying in here? And I go, I'm planning on getting the fuck out of here soon. He goes, I'm going up, I'm getting bail or whatever. I'm getting sentenced. And he goes, you got enough pot to last you the next 2 years. Because they make those little joints, they make them small and they sell them big money in there. Then there was this older guy, black guy, Mitch. He reminded me of Sanford and Son. Remember Fred Sanford?
Mm.
You never watched Fred Sanford?
No.
Oh, it's funniest show there was. And I go, Mitch, come here. He goes, hey, what's up? He goes, I go, look what I got for you. He goes, oh, he was so happy. This guy was like 70 years old. He smoked by the vents. He was on his like all fours. He's like puffing on the joints, putting it into the thing.
That's funny.
But yeah, then I was on the phone. The guard's walking by. She goes, Arillotta. She goes, you smell marijuana in the unit? The whole unit was, I brought that pot in. The whole unit was high on marijuana. The whole unit smelled of it. It was everywhere.
So you get out in 08.
Get out in 08.
Is your mindset to go back into what you were doing before? Or?
No, I want nothing to do with it.
Oh.
I want nothing to do with once you go away, your priorities and everything come into your life. And mine was at that time I was married. I had kids and I had a girlfriend. But what comes first, my kids. I had 2 little daughters and a little son, right? So when you get locked up, not only do you lose your freedom, but it comes into your life, what's most important. And to me, it was my kids, my family. My father, and, like he died in 2007. It was one of the worst losses that happened to me. I was in prison. So, and I was very close with him. So I don't want nothing. And plus I seen what the Mafia did, by already becoming boss, coming up, doing what they did, with us, having us going and shooting a guy down in New York. You got the biggest crime family in New York. Why you got us going down there shooting us? Then they wanted to do more murders afterwards. If I wasn't getting indicted and taken off the streets, they had other shit they wanted shot down in New York. Now they figure they got these crazy kids in, Springfield. We'll have them wipe out all of New York, all their enemies, right? But we're not the crash dummies. You're not going to use us like that. And I even told my guys, don't do nothing. I'm the boss. You don't have to answer to them. I'm the guy that has to answer to them. Don't do anything for them. And so, and the whole thing is, I was just worried about getting indicted for the murder. Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. I want to be around with my kids. I want to enjoy life. I want to, live like I was before Mafia. Man, like I said, once I got made, everything went down the hill. Everything went down the hill from the day I got made. Prior to me being made, millions of dollars I made, great life, eating dinner every night, drinking and smoking the best cigars, the best liquor, the best wine, having girlfriends, just going anywhere I wanted, treated respectful. And I wasn't a made guy. So that's what I want to do. I wanted to go back to that. And I wanted nothing to do with New York anymore. And Artie was in prison. So they were trying to reach out for me. And I kept sending messages. I'm not going nowhere. I'm under state probation and parole and federal probation. I go, if I be seen with any of you guys, it's a violation. I'm not going nowhere. They wanted me to come to New York. John Bologna now calls me. Now, don't forget, he's an informant, right?
But you guys don't know that yet.
We're told it by 3 different types. I told you the Patriarchas, the Gambino boss, but the faction in our family, the Baba Shabelli faction, those rats, those are the rats. Baba, Johnny Bazil, Joey Bazil, Michael Cimino, those faction knew that John Bologna was a rat because they're rats. And so, and it's in newspapers that Johnny Bazil was cooperated on Richie Finelli's case. That's in the newspaper. People don't have to listen to me and think I'm bad-mouthing somebody. Google it and look it up in the newspaper about Johnny Bazil. And Joey testified at the grand jury. And, so they knew that John Bologna was an informant.
So he calls you.
He calls me and he wants me to come meet him. So I sent one of my guys to go meet him. And I said, tell him I'm not going to meet him. So he goes and drives down to near Albany. And he tells him, he comes back, he says, no, he says, dude, he says, the bosses in New York, they got to give you now he's just trying to get me down there because he's trying to get me on wire because he got indicted again for something else. So not only was he an informant, but now he has to be a real informant, aggressive informant. See, before he was just giving information and he was an informant, but now he's got an indictment he's got to get out from under. So he wants me to come down there. So he tells my guy, he goes, oh no, tell him he's got to come. It's very important. Only he can answer these questions. It can't be messages. See, because I have to answer it because the feds are going to be listening. So I go out of my house, go 2 streets down, get picked up by my guy, get in the back seat till we get out of the city, down, and then we go to Albany and meet him. We go in there. I don't remember if he was in there first or I was in there first. He comes in, big, huge. He's like 6'3", big fat guy, beard, glasses, slick back hair. Looks like, it's no good. As soon as he comes up, and he's always playing, kisses me on both cheeks. Junior, smoking, Junior, how's everything? And this and that. I go, I just come home, and this is an 08 prison. I go, my father died when I was in prison. He goes, yeah, he was a good guy, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story short, he wants to start talking business. He goes, listen, New York is worried about the kid in prison. I go, so right away, I go, what are they worried for? I go, he's innocent. He didn't do nothing. And then I get up and whisper in his ear. I go, I'm not talking about none of this. I barely even could and I did whisper it enough because they didn't hear it. The feds were outside listening to all this. So I whisper in his ear. I go, I'm not talking about none of this. Don't ask me nothing about any murders. And I think I mouthed it to him. I go, I'm not talking about none of this, so he could hear my lips. And he goes, but anyways, I go back to the point when he brought it up. He goes, they're worried about Freddie because Freddie was in prison for the murder, because what happened was Frankie, the shooter of Bruno, on the day before he was going to go to trial, he flips and he cooperates, but he can't get nothing on me. He can only get Freddie, so he cooperates against Freddie. So Freddie gets indicted for the Bruno murder. Mm-hmm. So Freddie's indicted for the Bruno murder. So when John comes up and he starts talking to me about it, he goes, Freddie's innocent. I said, he didn't kill Bruno. I said, the guy Frankie killed him. He had a personal beef with him. Because, see, that's what we were putting out there, because they did have a personal beef. Bruno was looking for Frankie because Frankie busted up a bar that Bruno had a piece of. So it made sense that Bruno was looking for him. Frankie went off half-cocked and fucking killed him. So we were using that as the story. And by the way, we were supposed to kill Frankie afterwards. We just couldn't get to him, too. That was another thing. I think I pled guilty to that, too. But Artie ordered that one. And he said, chop his hands off, to make it seem like he killed Bruno and we're retaliating, for doing that. So we chopped his hands off. You don't put your hands on one of us. So then, so I tell him Freddie's innocent. He didn't do it. Frankie did it, and blah, blah. I whispered, I'm not talking about none of this. And then, boom, he knew he wasn't getting nothing else out of me. And then he goes, we leave. And sure enough, later on we find out, and the reason they didn't send them back into me was because they knew they weren't going to get nothing out of me. So they didn't want to, the more they put down, now it starts looking like he really is innocent. And, so they never sent them into me again after that. But he was an informant.
So
he is.
How do they end up then arresting you again?
So then, so now don't forget, he's giving them all the information. He knows about multiple murder conspiracies that I'm involved in. He knows about all of our rackets. He knows Artie's the boss. He knows Artie ordered these multiple murder conspiracies. And he's also wearing a wire on Artie. Artie's in Fort Dix. He's going into Fort Dix wired up.
And Artie's talking to him?
Artie's talking. Well, he's visiting him. So, he's probably going in there, and saying, I talked to the kid, meaning me. He goes, I talked to the kid, Anthony. He said, you got nothing to worry about with Freddie. Freddie's going to keep his mouth shut and blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know what Artie's going to say to that. I know if he said that to me, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I would say that. But yeah, multiple times he wore the wire on Artie. And that's what led to us getting indicted.
Wouldn't he know better, though? Because there was already rumblings of him being no good.
That's all right. So I'm glad you said that. So today, now don't forget, it's 03. You hear bosses flipping in the Mafia. You hear this guy was an informant for 30 years, Scarpa. You got Whitey Bulger. He was an informant for his whole career. The guys in there. You got informants that are around everywhere. And bosses today are informants. The Mafia, and the Mafia is on the decline. It ain't what it once was. It's 03. And so, and you hear these stories. All right, Scarpa was an informant with the Persicos, right? With Carmen Persico was the boss. You don't think Carmen Persico knew that Greg Scarpa was an FBI informant and working with him so he could kill their enemies? And it came out in the New York Daily News. Now, people could say they don't believe it. People could say it isn't true. I don't believe it was an informant, Carmen Persico, but it was on the front page of the Daily News that Carmen Persico was an informant. So you're going to say that the New York Daily News is a liar. They put it in the front page of the newspaper. What I believe is Carmen Persico knew Scarpa was an informant. And that's what these gangsters do. They, just like Bruno was going to do. Bruno had guys around him that would have law enforcement reach, and he would tell them, you get the information from them and put them up front and tell on this guy. Yeah, tell on our enemies. Tell on the guys in West Springfield. Tell on this guy, the Campidi selling the drugs. Tell on Larry Stone and this guy's in it. Tell on Tony Manzi, he's living at the house over there because he was an illegal, there illegally. He was from Italy. Tell on them. Use them as your weapon. So in my mind, Artie could be using John the same way. You got if you got a good connection in the FBI, wouldn't it be smart to use them for your benefit? Like he's going to tell you where the wiretaps are. Ain't that great? Where they're going to put listening bugs. Ain't that great? And it goes both ways. Like maybe you want to get your enemies off the street. You're going to put a bullet in their head. So what's the difference of putting them under indictment or putting a bullet in their head? Tell them, they're doing this or they're doing that over there or this and that. So, that's how I would take it that was going on.
Just a lot of loose lips. I mean, look at even the Gotti thing too, how they caught him on wiretap.
Well, that's different. Like wiretaps are,
But even talking about it to begin with, why?
Well, I was just going to say, you have to do business somehow when it comes to your illegal sports business. But when it comes to murder, the street rackets are the street rackets. They might pick up, guy has to say, hey, I want dollars for $500. You have to say that to somebody, But when it comes to murder, you should never, ever, ever talk about murder without whispering in their ears. That's how we did it. Never in a car, never on a phone, never talking to somebody because of these, back then it was beepers and phones and all that. You should never, ever discuss it without. We used to go at one of my places was a cigar place that we used to meet. And we'd go out in the back, we'd leave all of our beepers and electronic stuff inside. And because we were talking about murders and we whisper in each other's ear. And that's how we would talk about them. So yeah, if you get caught talking about murder on wiretaps, shame on you. You deserve what you get after that.
So they end up indicting you now for what?
In 2010, I get a hit with a death penalty, New York, major racketeering case.
Federal or state?
Federal.
Federal.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens?
So I get Artie gets indicted. So I get indicted February 18th. About a month before, I get word that I'm going to get indicted. John Bologna, I get a call from a cousin of mine in Florida. He gets word because they had a faction that knew John Bologna down in Florida with something that knew his family and he was around. He said, John Bologna, tell my cousin. So he calls up my friend. I was at an Italian club. My friend tells me what? He goes, tell my cousin that the guy with the beard that comes up with the beard and the glasses just went into the witness protection program. So what happened was they pulled up at his house with them SUVs and packed them up and boom, they took him off. He went into safe house, wherever, right? So when I heard that, my heart sank. Because don't forget, I got out in 2008, and nothing to do with the Mafia. I wanted to go back to, but I can't. Obviously, I'm stuck in the Mafia, but I'm not going near none of them. I'm doing my own businesses, my own legitimate businesses. I'm going back to prior to the Mafia. I'm hustling my own stuff and my crew. I'm going more into legitimate. That's what my thing was. And we can go on and on about that, but I wanted legitimate business. That's where all the money is, especially today. So, all the nightclubs, the strip clubs, the food industry, the garbage industry, all of it. So, Artie, so he tells me that John Bologna is going into the witness. So now, I'm like, fuck, I'm living so good now. I'm back, I got rid of that shell shock. I figure I might make this. And I leave that club and I feel like there's going to be 100 agents outside going to pound on me, because Bologna knows everything about me. And I asked Artie to kill him and Artie wouldn't let me, and now I'm thinking like Artie protected him because maybe Artie could be no good, because that's what they do. They, they work it together. Right. But Artie's doing his time in federal. He gets indicted first, February 10th. But I don't know this yet. I get indicted. They come and arrest me at my house February 18th. So that's when I get arrested for the racketeering case. It's out of New York, Southern District of New York. I get arraigned. The judge asks, what does he face for his maximum sentence? The prosecutor goes, death by lethal injection. And it's when you hear that in court, it's like, whoa, they want to kill me with the lethal injection. I got my family there and everything. And not that we don't deserve it. You kill someone, you deserve to, you could be killed too. That's how it goes. But I'd rather get shot on the streets and shot in the head than the lethal injection.
So what do you end up doing? What do you decide?
So I go to, I'm going to fight the case. I got a great attorney out of Springfield, Vinny Benjamin. I told you he's the best, but he can't handle the case because, it's in New York. So he gets me one of the best attorneys that was on the Gotti case, John Mitchell. He gets me him. He's going to charge me $150 if it goes to the court. I'm preparing to go to trial. They move me from there. I go to Wyatt. I'm at Wyatt. And so this is when it starts to all go bad. So I'm at Wyatt, and first is Vinny comes up and tells me that Felix Stringese is going to cooperate. He knows about the murder. So that puts 4 guys that with direct knowledge on the murder on our thing. Felix, Ray, Frankie, and John. 4 guys that can put us. The second thing is I had a girlfriend. The day my father died, March 8th, 3 years to the day, I call up my girl, my wife, ba-boom, ba-boom. They both she finds out about my girl. And she's having a nervous breakdown. So I got the death penalty case going on. I got my wife catching me with the girlfriend. I got the death penalty case, and I'm trying to get the lawyers to come up and fight this case. And so everything like that is going on. But what got me to finally make a decision of what I finally ultimately did was when my New York lawyer came up, and John Mitchell. And the first things he said, was he's close with the New York bosses in my family. And he said the New York bosses are worried sick. And I said, why? What are they worried sick about? And then he said, Artie's not in the system. Artie, the boss, Niger, was not in the system. And when they say that to you, I don't know if you know what that means.
That means they're off the map, hidden, probably in witness protection.
Probably cooperating, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Even if they took him out of the prison in transit, someone's going to know. Someone's going to know where he is, right?
And he should still be on the system,
right? So you're talking. So Artie's not. So I asked him. I go. So he's not in the system. I got 4 guys that put me with the murder, and now the boss that ordered it is not in the system. So if they're worried sick, what do you think I should be? And he's like, well, just, wait, let's see what happens. Let's see if, let's get the discovery. And no, this is the first time I'm seeing him, and he wants to know more about this John Bologna. So I'm telling him, I go, the guy's a piece of shit. I go, I told Artie, they told us he was an informant from day one. I go, Artie knew he was a fucking informant. I go, he kept him around us. I go, I didn't tell him I asked permission to kill him, but I go, the guy knew he was an informant. He goes, all right, well, let's just see, and this and that. But now a month goes by. So anyways, when I hear that, I figure, it's like I'm a dead man. I'm a dead man, even if it isn't true about Artie. But it's like, so what do I got to lose? So it's like, that's when it started putting in my mind, what am I going to do here? That's when the first thought of cooperating came into my head. If they would even let a guy like me cooperate. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like, what would how would I even be offered, but they did offer that to me. They did offer that. I never, I just say, no, I'm good. I'm all set. Like you get arrested. Hey, if you want to say anything, if you want to, talk about your case. Like when I got arrested for this case, they said, he goes, bosses flipped today, Aunt. And I thought it was kind of a weird message warning that this guy was giving me. He goes, bosses flipped today. You're second on the indictment. Artie's an old man. It wouldn't be nothing for him to flip and blah, blah, blah. So I remember them telling me that, and now this guy's not in the system. Where do you go for a month? And here's the funny thing. The federal marshal on the case, who I'm partners with to this day, can verify everything I'm telling. He dropped Artie. So Artie was doing time at Fort Dix, right? This marshal was in charge of our case. They pick up you from prison, bring you here, point A to point B, from trial to prison, this, that, and the other. They drop you off at prison. He picks him up at Fort Dix. He drops him off at MCC. So meanwhile, now you fast forward. I've been in jail over a month. I think I was indicted February 18th. I didn't get to New York until like the beginning of April. I first went to MDC, and then I went to MCC. Over a month, Artie's missing in the system. And then finally, when I get to MCC, the bosses of the Genovese family are there. Danny Leo's one of them. And finally, he whispers in my ear, he says, they found Artie. He's at MDC. How did he end up at MDC? The marshal dropped him off at MCC. And where did he go for the month? But at this point, I already had made a move to reach out to cooperate while I was in Rhode Island. After I found out that, that's what, I put a feeler out. Is it even possible for me to do that? That's number one. And then I have to hear back from them. If that's, then not only does I'm going through the thing with my wife, death penalty case. Now I'm thinking about cooperating, but now my lawyer's father dies at this time. Vinny's father dies, and he's close with him. So now he's mourning his father. I got to wait for him. That's why it's taken so long for me to do this. So in the meantime, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need him to tell him. And then, because then when he did finally come up, he whispers in my ear, he goes, you want to make a preemptive strike? Like, what do you want to do here? I go, well, Vinny, I'm dead. I'm going to die in prison. I go, I'd rather die in the streets. Let's me get out, and we'll have a shootout. I'd rather get killed in the streets than just to, get led to the slaughterhouse. So he goes, let me see. Then his father dies, so I'm waiting to hear back from them. So in the meantime, I'm going to tell my guys. So there's only 3 guys, Freddie, Ty, and Emilio in my area that is in jeopardy of going to prison. So I want to tell them what I'm going to do. Now, meanwhile, I haven't talked with nobody in the federal government at all. So my plan is to have their cousin, who's my wife's friend, best friend, come up and visit me, because at Wyatt you can get a 3-hour visit. So you can get 1 visit a week for 3 hours, or you can get 3 for an hour, but 1 week for 3 hours. So I was going to explain to her what I want to do, what they have on us. Artie's not in the system. We're all going to get toasted. I go, let's make a deal with the government. We're from Mass. Fuck New York. We'll make a deal. We all are capable of doing what anybody can do. We're all killers. And we'll come back to our area, and we'll get into legitimate business, and we'll be back with our families. And that was the message I gave to them. And I was stupid for doing it, because I was the target that they wanted. I was the made guy. I gave that message 3 weeks before I even sat down with anybody from the government. And this is all verified. The lawyer said it. Dan Kelly has said it in on news channels, on news, things on the news that I reached out to them. It's in newspaper articles that I reached out to them. It's in trial transcripts that I reached out to them for them to join me and to make a deal.
What was the deal you ended up making with the feds?
So I ended up cooperating. They accepted my cooperation. Here's the funny thing. So they accepted it, and because, there's a chance they won't. A lot of guys go in, like John Gotti Jr. sat down with them and gave a 302. They didn't accept it. Anthony Casso sat down and gave them a 302, confessed to like 30-something murders, all right? They didn't accept him. They got rid of him. And then you die in prison. Not only do you try to cooperate, so you're labeled, then they don't accept you, and then you die in prison, So they end up accepting me, and I end up so John, but you got to be careful how you talk. Now Bologna's their golden goose, he's their informant. So you got to be careful, because if you badmouth their golden goose, or you say in certain things, they might say, you know what, we don't want you because you're going to jeopardize all the good stuff that we got with him. So I had to, you have to say things in certain ways, but it all started. He never told them about the shooting in New York. He only told them about all the crimes, the other murders, and the Bruno murder. But he never told them the murder conspiracy, but never told them about the guy in New York, because he was involved, and that's a union official. Right? So he left that out. So he wasn't going to do 1 day in prison. He was on the streets. So what they did was they went and scooped him up after this, and they said, hey, you have to go to Allenwood. They shipped him to Allenwood, the unit there. And they said, yeah, just till the trial's over. Right? That's what they said to him. Then they wait, and then they go back to him, and they said, hey, we don't think you're being honest with us. Is there anything you're leaving out? And he says, no. They gave him a chance. They go back to him one more time, and they say, we know you're not being honest with us. And if you don't tell us, we know you know about this, this, and this. And then he says, oh, I had a stroke. I don't remember these things, and blah, blah. Anyways, he ends up he got 8 years in prison. He wasn't going to do one, and he died in prison.
Wow.
And he wasn't going to do one day.
How much time do you end up getting?
8.5.
Do you think that was a fair sentence, given everything?
So based on what I was told by the U.S. attorney in New York, Ellie Honing, who was been around since the 90s, he was like the Elliot Ness of the modern day. And this is going by what U.S. attorneys, they said I got fucked. They said, Anthony, there was guys in New York that did way more than you that got way less. Now, if you look at it, all the murder conspiracies I did, my whole life of crime and everything, 8.5 years, is that a lot? I should be in jail for the rest of my life. So no, they're going to say, people will say, no, that's not, you didn't get a lot of time. You should have got 20 years, 30 years, blah, 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 blah. But the people that know the life, and this is coming directly from the prosecutor's mouth, they said, yeah, you got fucked, 8.5, because if it was in Massachusetts, no, they would have gave me 20. But New York, where all the mob families are, these type of cases go on. There's guys that go in with multiple murders, and they're looking to destroy the mob families in New York City. So you can't do that and give a guy to cooperate 20 years, because then the next guy's not going to want to do it. So you got to make an incentive worth it. Now, if they destroy the Mafia and there's no Mafia left, and then the guy wants to do it, no, you ain't really giving us. The Mafia is dead.
What happened to Artie?
Artie ends up resurfacing. And I believe this, and I believe people that know about this believe that he attempted to cooperate and try to do what they all do. Give up certain things, not everything. Their enemies, like John Gotti Jr., give up your enemies, not crimes that you were involved in. And I don't believe and I think his deal got rejected, and he ended up dying in prison.
So when you get out, you do the 8 years.
Right.
You get out of prison. Are you worried and fear your safety? Or even in prison, are you worried and fear?
No. So they offer you the witness protection program. If I never took it, but they, when you do cooperate and you're like that, they have units that you go to that people there have cooperated. So you're around serious, dangerous guys. Like every guy in my unit had multiple murders. You had one guy that killed 24 people in prison. With the Aryan Brotherhood, you had black gangs, Mexican gangs, Chinese gangs, the MS-13s, the Italians, and everybody there had at least 2 bodies or more. And so you're around dangerous guys. But the problem is, it's everyone's cooperating. So you're not going to have that type of violence coming at you.
What about your family? Were you worried for their safety?
No, just that I was worried how are they going to survive out there, and make it, because I'm not going to be out there. But as far as their safety, no.
Do you think if this was further back in time, it would have been a bigger issue?
Yeah, if it would have been,
like, say, 20 years ago.
Well, it was 20 years ago.
I mean, you went away from 2010 to 2008, 17.
Right, 2010, 17, right.
Yeah.
But if it was like anything before,
like in the 90s.
I was saying in the 90s.
Yeah, if you cooperated.
And I would still do the same thing I'm doing now. If it was the 90s, because I wouldn't care. Like, I wouldn't be as lackadaisical and, like, free and going places like I do if it was the 90s. But I would go where my family is. I came back because my kids were here, and I came back from my kids. If you're going to kill me on the streets, then kill me on the streets. But that's what I would have did. I came back. But yeah, like New York in the 90s, yeah, you're not going back to the areas like they do today. Yeah, you would have a problem. And I would have a problem too back in the 90s, but don't forget, the bullets can go both ways. So I mean, if it's like if you're going to go there, but then you're not going to want to get out of a situation or go back into a situation. So that's why, like, a lot of guys are just better off going to another state.
How does it make you feel that you were willing to kill people that did the same exact thing that you ended up doing in the end?
That's a good question. Tomorrow I could get killed. My life ain't over. I mean, Bruno was 58 when he died. I'm 57. So who knows what's going to happen to me? And in that life, what about the people that they killed that didn't do what they did, and for no because of some other reason? What about the people that they killed? My friend's father, Antonio Facenti. What about him? What about the DeCaros and all these other people that were clipped and killed? You join that life, that's what happens.
Are you at peace with your actions from the past?
100%. Even the part of cooperating at the first, it was the worst thing. Living, like I didn't want to surrender and this, and I thank God I did what I did. I'm out here living a life like I did before I was made, and I'm around my kids again, and everything is. I almost didn't make that decision if it wasn't for, like I said, my girlfriend at the time, and the things that way they broke out. I almost didn't make it. When I finally made that decision to do that, it was like an all-day thing. Finally, they said, listen, either you're going to do it or you're not, but this is it. We're not leaving the room again. It almost didn't do it. So, but now I'm totally fine with all that. Yeah, and everyone makes their own decisions in life. The guys that end up staying in prison, they made their choice. They chose prison over their families.
Do you ever think about how you would be feeling right now if you didn't make the decision to cooperate and you were in prison for the rest of your life dying?
Prison, yeah. If prison is so good, why is everybody appealing, doing appeals, trying to, do law work to get out of it? Counting the days when they're almost home and they're having parties when they get. If it's so good, why does everybody want to get out of it? Would you, take this room and shrink it in half, and then shrink it in half again, and then put a bunk in there and go live with somebody for the rest of your life, right? And you think that's you think that's fun and that's a good way to live? It's a miracle if someone gives you a chance to get out of that. Now, the bad thing is who has to go down because of that? Well, nobody has to go down. Do what I'm doing. If I'm willing to risk and take the scrutiny of doing what I did, I hear guys saying it's the coward move, or it's the coward, and what was the other one? It was the I don't know, what did this guy say? I don't know. But if it's such a coward, then take back what you did and go to prison and let all the guys you testified out back on the streets. I mean, what's the coward is going to prison and leaving your family for dead. Who's more important than your kids? You got kids?
No,
All
not
right.
yet.
So if you have kids, who in life is going to be more important to them? So if you have to die, but nobody should be able to come in front of your kids. So I'm going to put guys that we're going to kill each other. We're going to take, an order. We'd kill each other in a heartbeat. I would kill my friends and they would kill me in a heartbeat. Even my two friends are in prison. If they got an order from New York to kill me, they'd kill me in a second. If I got an order to kill them, I'd kill them. I have to kill them. So I'm going to put them over my immediate family. And the only thing I could say is I did what I thought. I don't think that not too many people would do. Have some balls. Go up against everyone and do it for your family and come back home and be here with me, and we could open up legitimate businesses and that's it.
If you could sit across the table with your teenage self right now, what would you tell him?
Never get made. Stay, just do. I would live the same exact life, except I wouldn't get made and participate in any murders. And I would take all the millions I made and put it into real estate and legitimate businesses, and I'd be worth $1 billion today.
Anthony, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Hey, Ian, thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, this was a great interview, great conversation.
I appreciate it. And it's just one shout I like to do with my social media.
Yeah.
I'm on the Instagram, Anthony Arillotta. Also, I have the YouTube channel, Money, Mayhem, and a Mafia. I'm partners with Roll the Bones, Chris from Roll the Bones, and obviously the Pazzo Wine and the South End Syndicate is the book is South End Syndicate and the Wine Pazzo.
And we'll have the link in the description of this episode to everything too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll make sure you're all plugged in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.